Hey, what's going on, folks? How we doing this evening? On this Wednesday night, we are going to do a recap of Week 13. We have a very nice panel with us tonight. Um, all of them are returning people, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, let's bring them in. First, we're going to bring in Mr. Evan, who is the Cleveland guy. What's going on, man?
What's up, buddy? How you doing? Thanks for having me on. Let's recap this week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I guess you had a big win, right? But we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Hopefully, a lot of people checked out the show yesterday. You and Gina did. Really did all right. I watched it.
Yeah, the numbers were a little low last night, but they've jumped up today. They're doing pretty well. It's climbing as we speak right now.
That's what we like to hear. Anyway, let's bring on our next guest, Miss Melissa. What's up,
Hey,
Melissa?
fellas. I'm great. This is Jake. He's gonna
How we
be in and
doing?
out.
Got the doggy
We're
out.
good.
All right. All right. Um, Interesting week of football for you as well, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next, we're gonna bring in Mr. Mark. Mark, long
Hi there.
time no talk, man. How you doing?
It's been a little bit, yeah. Thanks for having me back on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're in a different room tonight, huh?
I am in the dining room tonight. So this is all of my
Full
family and Scrabble
babe pack
tiles
area.
back here.
Sweet. Next, we're gonna bring on Ryan.
Hey,
What's
how's
up?
it going?
Good.
Oh,
Good.
not yeah. Same stuff, different day.
Same stuff, different day. Just another win, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll get into it, but went differently than I thought.
All right. Next, we're gonna bring in Joe. What's
How's
up,
it going?
Joe?
Not much. Everything's great here.
Leader of the East.
It didn't snow here in Buffalo this week, so that makes me happy right there. But big win, which we'll talk about the game shortly. But yeah, things are good.
Yes. All right. So did everyone get to watch every game, or which games do we pick and choose?
I was a picker and chooser this week. Of course, I had a big game this week to watch, but I was able to watch the Kansas City Cincinnati game. I checked out a lot of highlights this week just due to work schedule and everything else I had going on. But I'm still excited to talk about what's coming up.
I spent my Sunday watching Red Zone, so
Anyone else?
I got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I got a local
You sound
bar
like me.
here that I just hit up. It's got all the games on.
Yep, bits and pieces myself.
Oh yeah, your game was over Thursday night.
Right, everybody got that one. I'd like to say I stayed awake for the whole time, but I'd be lying. But
Oh, well, the Patriots
the
weren't awake
important
for the whole
part.
thing either, so we'll give you a pass.
Melissa?
I had to suffer through that horrible Giants game, and then I watched the Bengals and Chiefs game and the Niners game. And I fell asleep during the Colts game because that was just awful.
So did the Colts.
Yep, sure did. Like right as the fourth quarter started, they were just lights
Yes,
out.
they did. They were done.
All right. Well, the first game we're going to go over is, if my screen guard ever kept, there it is.
We don't get any big, cool, fancy
With
banners
Joe's
this
game.
week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What kind of you mean what? You mean like this?
No, but never mind. Whatever. A couple weeks ago, you had some like nice little like game logos.
Oh, like last week. I went with a whole different. Yeah. I went with a whole different view this week. I went with the whole score and stats, so we knew what we were talking about in case we forgot. Ryan, you got to mix it up. Keep people on their toes.
You're right. Good point.
So is
There you
Kurt
go.
Herbstreit a good announcer for Thursday Night Football?
I like him.
Or do you think
I,
he's
I
just
like
college
him, but
role?
that's because we've been given trash for most games, throughout the years. So I think he's okay.
Anything's better than Al Michaels talking for like 2,000 years straight.
I don't know. I just get this college feel whenever I hear Kurt, so I kind of hold him to that. Maybe it's unfair for me, but every time I hear his voice, I just think of college football.
It took me a little bit to get over that too, because like when I would hear his voice, I'm like, ugh. And then like after about 6 weeks, I was like, oh, he's not really that bad.
Right. I feel like that's where he belongs. But again, I like, he knows the pro game as well, or he gives that impression at least. So I enjoy listening to him. I think he's good with that too.
So what do we think about the game?
Well, here in Buffalo, I mean, personally, I think reasons for optimism for a couple of reasons. 3 that I can think of here. First of all, the defense is slowly but surely being pieced back together here. You got somebody like Matt Milano, who's been great all year, leading the game in tackles again. But guys like Tremaine Edmonds coming back, guys like Tre'Davious White making a few plays, finally getting back into the mix. So again, that defense minus Micah Hyde is the Bills' defense that we know, and they played very well, obviously. Also, and I've said it on this show, I've been telling people all year, get James Cook involved, and they finally got James Cook involved. I think he led them in rushing, or at least he had the most rushing attempts.
14 for
but also-
64, 4.6 yards, Joe.
Yes.
But
right here in
Singletary
front of
got
me.
the goal line touchdown.
Yes. But the thing with James Cook, too, and why he's so valuable to the offense is because he catches passes. And
6 for
I
41.
believe he caught 6. I'm not looking at the stats here right now, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's right
he
in front of you.
6 receptions.
6 for 41,
So, again, get James Cook involved. And I think the more they do that, the more dynamic their offense would be. I mean, it's already great. I think the only person in the game that caught more passes was Diggs. So, and other things worked out for them too. Once again, right now, as we speak, they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. So I was a little worried about this game, to be honest, going into it. Not that I fear New England, but I just had a feeling that there was one game that they could slip, thinking maybe, this one being at New England. Again, Belichick knows the Bills well, and he's dominated them. So I was a little worried about this game, to be honest with you, but the Bills just, showed up business as usual and, dominant performance. I think the score was closer than the game actually was. And again, with everything working out, we got the number 1 team in the AFC again. So again, good stuff.
All right. Anyone else?
Did anyone get to hear the McCourty calling the game thing that they kept talking about all throughout the TNF broadcast?
No.
Jason McCourty
No.
calling the game for the local radio station.
Mm-mm.
Thoughts on the Von Miller injury and him having an ACL tear that had to be fixed when he had surgery, or being discovered while having surgery.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just heard that today. That's going to be tough.
Perk is in the house.
Hi, Perk.
What's up, Perk?
What up, Perk?
Hey,
How you
hey,
doing?
Perk.
So you think Rousseau steps up for you in the middle?
Yes. I mean, he's been growing, he's been very valuable for the last, season and a half already. And again, that Von Miller, that's a huge loss. He made the whole defense around him look great. There was so many games where it's like, you know what? I haven't heard Von Miller's name at all. It's like, what's he doing? But really what he's doing is kind of opening things up. He's being double teamed. he's opening things up for other guys. So they're not going to have that anymore. But I think you're going to see guys like Rousseau, Epineza, people like that step up and still, make this one of the better defenses in the NFL.
That's a lot of what Von Miller did when he was in Denver as well. He was taking guys away and he was opening stuff up for Bradley Chubb. And I think the Broncos are realizing a lot of that this year.
Right.
I think the big takeaway from this game for me is that the Bills made it a point to establish the run throughout the whole game. They didn't ask Josh Allen to do his usual Josh Allen superhero thing. I know they averaged 3.9 yards per carry as a team, but when you get 27 carries from your running backs at 115 yards and obviously the goal line touchdown from Singletary, that's a great day for Bills, backfield. And I think that moving forward, the split that we saw, as far as James Cook and Singletary about getting 50-50 on the carries, but Cook taking all the passing work is probably what we're going to see moving forward. Still going to see Naheem Hines in there a little bit. I did see James Cook continue to struggle in pass pro the very little he was out there trying to block for Josh Allen, but that's a young running back thing. That's everywhere. A lot of running backs coming out of college, their first year struggle with that. So I liked what I saw from the Bills. This was probably one of the more complete games that I saw from them. So that's inspiring. And Tre'Davious White, he's got to shake off the rust a little bit, but I think he'll be fine.
Yep.
That was actually going to be my question to you, Joe, was did you feel like this was a game that they stepped up because it's a division game, or do you think that they're starting to fix the things that were starting to show as a problem for them a few weeks ago as far as turnovers and really asking Josh Allen to do everything? Do you think it's just because it's a division game or because they're finally starting to figure some things out?
No, I actually think it's because they're starting to figure some things out. The same thing happened last year. They hit just a spot in the season where, all of a sudden they couldn't do a lot of things right and they were having issues that they hadn't had, all season long. They hit that little spurt where they went into the slump and then ended the season on a high note. And the same thing I feel like happened here. It's just they went through the little slump. Allen had his little slump or some, mental issues, whatever it was. But I think they're past that. They have two more divisional games. They have the Jets coming here this weekend. I know we're not supposed to look ahead here, but the Jets coming in, the Dolphins both coming in here. And I really believe the Bills win both of those games, here.
I think
they
ebbs
fixed
and
those
flows
issues.
have a lot to do with that too. I mean, it's a long season. It's hard to be at 100% for all 17 games. So every team's going to have that moment where they slip up or that few games where they don't look right. So the good teams come out of it and the bad ones don't.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else?
Anybody else think Mac Jones asks for a trade in the offseason? Because if they don't get a real offensive coordinator in New England, there's going to be some serious problems moving forward. Matt Patricia's not an offensive coordinator.
Right.
Not a head coach either.
He's actually a rocket scientist. I learned that today. He has a degree that allows him to be a rocket scientist, but he can't call plays in the NFL.
Never knew that.
I didn't know that either. I was like, wow, I guess you can't use the joke, calling plays isn't rocket science. I guess rocket science is easier than calling plays.
Maybe if it was, he'd be better at it.
All right. I found really not much to talk about in this game.
Lamar Jackson is all you need to talk about in that game.
Mm-hmm.
That injury could be a killer for the Ravens.
And I did copy and paste what Harbaugh said. I mean, there was literally no stats, and I mean there were stats, but nothing noteworthy. Ryan, you'll be back in the screen in a second. There you go, guys.
Just that the only thing
so
that I've seen all year long is that the Broncos' offense is painful to watch.
Did anyone see that we're gonna have to watch Baker Mayfield and Russell Wilson on Christmas Day?
Yeah.
Can't wait.
You guys are, because I'm not watching that game.
Yeah, you can say have to, but there's no laws for
that. Man. I'm watching it just to have more material to troll the rest of Browns Nation.
My thoughts coming out of this game are that Tyler Huntley from this point on has a better chance of winning than the Broncos do, hoping at all, because they're just awful.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And that
Nathaniel
I'm
Hackett is
sh-
one and done.
and I'd be shocked if
I
the
mean, how long?
Ravens force Lamar to come back, like even in 3 weeks' time, because they just look
If
so broken. Like I've never seen John Harbaugh look so ready to just walk off the field and so like stone faced and unhappy.
I have a
I mean, it
feeling
was
that
so hard to listen.
Lamar's going to
Yeah.
be moved this offseason. I think that the Ravens front office made a mistake not signing him a year ago. I don't think they'll be able to afford him and make the moves that they're going to do. I think that they don't know how to build around him. And I think the longer that they hold on to him, the more problems that they're going to end up having. And I think the best solution for them is to end up moving him now while they can and pick up as many draft pieces as possible, because they really aren't going to need much, in my opinion, to stay competitive if they move him now.
The good thing for the Ravens is that when Huntley has had to step in, he's actually played pretty well. And he's the guy that can take that kind of – he can run, not like Lamar can, but he can run, and he's effective at it. And he's been doing a good job throwing the ball when he's had to.
Yeah, that's the thing with Huntley is he's basically Walmart Lamar Jackson in the sense that they profile as the same kind of quarterback,
Right.
one read, tuck and run. The difference between past, Huntley having to step in is that the weapons have been there. And, part of the reason Lamar Jackson's not playing to the way that we all thought he would, especially this second half of the season, is nobody's been healthy. I mean, Dobbins has been out. Gus Edwards has missed multiple weeks. Mark Andrews has missed multiple weeks. His number one receiver going into the year and deep threat, Rashad Bateman, out since week 4, not coming back. Their offense just at multiple weeks at a time has been decimated by injuries, and they're out there with DeMarcus Robinson and Devin Duvernay as their receivers. And Isaiah Likely has looked good when he's played, but he's still a rookie, and you're relying on 28-year-old Kenyon Drake to take 20 carries a game at certain points. It's like, well, the offense isn't going to look very good. The Ravens are actually – I've been so critical of their defense, but over the last 4 weeks, 3 of the last 4 games, they've allowed 13 points or less. They have really stepped up and kept this team in the playoff race and first in the AFC North, to be honest with you. If Huntley can somehow slip them past Pittsburgh, which I think is going to be a tough game, divisional games are always tough. If he can slip them past Pittsburgh, it's real that Lamar Jackson comes back, that maybe they do force him back a little bit. Maybe he is ready to go. I don't know how bad the situation is, but I know that he's out at least 1 week. So the Ravens are very much in it. And to be honest with you, I have no idea how.
Yeah, I thought that too, as far as their defense is concerned this week, only giving up 9 points, but it is Denver
who averages
they're
13 points a game.
Yes. And they've steadily improved though. And the Ravens, especially if Lamar comes back, I think are going to be a team to look out for.
Well, anyone else on this game? I mean, I know it was exciting to watch.
I think that's enough.
I was just I wanted to get that one out. Next, Ryan, you mentioned the Steelers here coming up.
Oh, the Squealers. We got to talk about them.
Yes, they played and they won. And now no one will shut up in this town that they're in the hunt. Which I'm glad. I mean, if they win next week, they'll be one step closer to, getting that magic 500, baby.
Wait.
Real sad.
Did you just say what I think you said?
The magic 500? I absolutely did.
We've been arguing on this show for how long about the decency of being 500? and that you don't appreciate a head coach that at least gets you 500 or better every year.
I get it, but I don't know. I'd rather have victories, playoff victories. We've had 3 in the last 12 years. Since I
My
lost to
big
that
take-
guy right there in the bottom right corner of my screen. I've had 3 wins in a
What?
decade. Evan. 3 wins in a decade. That is not Steeler football.
You've got Jeff Fisher. If you're hoping for 500 every year, that's what you're looking at.
That's what our head coach looks at.
Hey, look,
Is
He's
Kenny
done the
Pickett
coming
job
from a
for-
Browns fan, I'll take it. I'll take winning the division every 2 to 3 years and 1 or 2 one win a season in the postseason. I'll take it. I'll gladly take it. I'll gladly take Andy Dalton and the mediocrity they had in Cincinnati. I'll gladly take it. But you guys mismanaged the big 3 that you had. You allowed your offensive line to get old, and there's still, like you just said, they're still in the hunt. And I just don't get it when I hear Steelers fans or coming at me on Twitter talking about all the complaints that you guys have. But you're blaming your coach, but you're not looking at your GM. You're not looking at the hires that they have in their coaching ranks. Like, what has Matt Canada done to make you think that he should deserve that spot? But you want to go after Mike Tomlin, the one consistent thing you've had since Bill Cowher.
I don't know. It's just the same shit, that different week. Same words, same big words. Use big words. Make these people fall for it. It's just, I don't know. It's just lame talk. It sounds really good to the media, though. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the words sound good, but it's the same thing over and over and over again. Schematics, and I don't know. It's just the end of a relationship, Evan. That's all it is.
You're in a rut. You want out of the rut.
There is counseling.
Yeah, like a new coach or a
my-
new team. But I'm not
My
gonna leave
big-
the Steelers.
My big takeaway from this game was Atlanta pulled an Atlanta and coughed up the South again because I guess they don't want it. And I bawled out when I heard about the Cam Hayward story at the presser, and I went back and actually watched his brother's touchdown again because that got me really emotional. That they earlier in the day they had gone to their father's grave, and Cam Hayward was there in his dad's jersey, the Atlanta jersey, and that was my big takeaway from your game.
And I'm finally willing to admit you might have something with Pat Freiermuth. That's as far as I'll go with that one.
You don't like drop.
Also-
You don't like Dropson. You don't like Drop Johnson. Are you keeping your lips sealed on that one? Anyone else on this game?
If the Bucks
Yeah.
win this week while Atlanta's on bye, they have to, and I mean have to, go to Desmond Ritter. There's you can't see Marcus Mariota coming out of the bye if Tampa's got a 2-game lead in this division. Atlanta's got to wave the white flag at some point and figure out what they have with Ritter before they go drafting another quarterback next year anyway.
I don't think they're going to get through that defense they play next weekend.
I'm surprised they
That's
stick
just
with
my
him this
personal opinion,
long.
but that defense is mighty strong. Any other opinions on this game?
Yeah,
I
I had
know
a
Matthew-
question for you. What did you think of Tomlin talking up about Pickett whining on the sidelines about how he wants more touches?
I didn't see that.
Oh yeah,
don't
the
listen. I
Pickens
didn't
tipper
listen.
tantrum on the sideline.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
didn't see it. I was at work and it was not reported on XM radio, so I did not get even know anything
There was a
going
few of
on.
those this week. Mac Jones was out there screaming at his offensive coordinator.
I
I
saw
mean,
that. He dropped a
He
couple
was.
F-bombs. I retweeted that one. I saw that
yeah,
one.
Brady was doing his Brady thing. I mean, Stephon Diggs in the first half of that Bills game was showing a little bit of frustration with only 2 targets. So there was quite a bit of, guys snapping it, on the sideline this week.
I wouldn't say
I
Pickens
did
went
not see
full
that,
Antonio
Melissa.
Brown,
I
but he
will
went
look
off.
that up, though.
Well,
Was it good
actually,
to
Ryan,
watch?
you
I
bring
didn't
up a
like. I didn't. This is
great
the first I heard of it, and I don't listen to Pittsburgh radio, obviously. Or else I'm
It was
sure I
on
would have heard
Twitter.
something
It was
Yeah, it's
all
all
over
over
Twitter.
Twitter.
That's how I found out.
about. I didn't even see it, and
Don't you go on the
I-
internet,
I
Adam?
was very much
Jesus.
on Twitter.
It
But
wasn't in the
Ryan, you brought up a great point that I want to ask Joe. Stephon Diggs has been having at least target-wise for the first half. Since the Browns game, I don't remember his numbers against the Lions, but I think this is 3 weeks in a row he's had to be pulled aside by one of the coaches, somebody to talk to him, because of his frustrations of how he's being used in the first half with this offense. Do you think that's something that's going to be a problem going forward?
I don't. I'm surprised it took this long for this to happen, to be honest with you. I mean, Diggs has been great for this team, but coming in, everybody wondered that. The first few games he doesn't get the ball. Is this going to happen? So, I'm surprised it took this long. I honestly don't think it's going to be an issue. I think this is just another phase they're going through. No, to answer your question, I don't think that's going to be a problem. They're going to
I
get him the
do.
ball. They always do. There's so many games where I think that it's like, oh my goodness, Diggs hasn't even touched the ball. It's like, what, he's invisible. And then second half, what do you have? 5 catches in the second half, this game. But they'll figure out how to get him the ball and he'll be fine.
I do think it's going to be a major issue because that was kind of the beginning of the end for the Vikings with him. He'd have his little tantrums, and then he'd be fine, and then he come back, and then he have more tantrums, and then he would attack Kirk Cousins, and he went back on like all the nice buddy stuff he said about Kirk Cousins. So I think with James Cook being involved and Devin Singletary getting touchdowns now, and Dawson Knox and Gabriel Davis, and you guys using all these different weapons, the more I fear your team's going to break apart on offense now because Stephon's going to get his little feelings hurt because he's not the main star anymore.
Mm-hmm. And coming into Buffalo, he, that was going to change. And I think the relationship he has with Josh Allen is different than the one he had with Kirk Cousins. And I think it's a lot stronger. So, again, that potential is always there. Again, that's what we feared when he first got here. I guess he's proven himself that, he's a little more mature than that. And I guess time will tell, hopefully it doesn't get to that, and again, and he, says he's a team player. Let's see, because again, it is more of a share the wealth kind of offense. And if they win a Super Bowl, I don't think he's going to be too disappointed about that.
Do you think he's going to be disappointed because the run game's starting to get better?
Again, from what I've seen about him, being this team player and a different person coming here, I think that's the running game getting involved in this offense is only going to make it better. That was the one element that was missing. And now that it's starting to develop and be where they want it to be, I think, again, it's only going to strengthen the offense, not hurt it.
Buffalo in December, you have to have a running game.
Exactly.
I mean, Diggs has 2 games with less than 8 targets. The reality is there's nobody else pass catching wise on that offense that's going to stop him from getting his. So I don't think it ends up being a big deal, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's going to make the big play still, and he's going to get those opportunities to make the big play, and that's never going to change.
right, next. Anyone else? And the Steeler Falcons game that was just heavily Matthew Wright, basically. Evan, we're going to go to your game next.
Boy, was this a stinker. But
I saw that you guys were going to the massage
yeah,
helmets.
I mean, huh?
I saw someone sent me a thing. It said Cleveland's new helmet that had a massage board on it.
Oh man, I got to get ready for these
I was
jokes
like,
because
what?
I truly haven't been, truly not prepared for it. But as I talked about on Talking Sports by the Lake, that I predicted that I was the one that wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid. It's been 700 days since he stepped on the field. You can do passing skeletons, you can do 7-on-7s, you can run scout team, you can do all the things I just listed. It's nothing like having a defensive end run a stunt and come through the A gap because he ran a perfect stunt at the right time, come down, and you got to deal with that pressure. There were some small flashes, some things that he couldn't control. We're just going to have to wait and see how it goes. I'm not really worried about next week. We'll talk about that later. But to go over this game, the thing that surprised me is that the defense and the special teams finally showed up. Yeah, it's against the Texans, who I didn't realize they were that bad, because even when the Browns were 1-16, 1-15, they weren't that bad. I've never seen a quarterback fumble a quarterback sneak on the 1 yard line and get returned for a touchdown. I've never seen a tight end catch the ball, and when he lands on his back, the ball bounces 5 feet in the air and for an easy touchdown. I think we got a lot of breaks. I was happy to see some of the things that I saw from the defense, but I hope they figure something out for next week.
Evan, did real quick, did the Cleveland Browns score a touchdown like the Vikings scored a touchdown on the Bills?
No.
Josh Allen fumble on the 1 yard line, and it was a touchdown.
You said they ran it back.
No, like he.
I was just asking. I didn't know. Sorry.
It's somewhat similar, but I was to answer a question that was asked earlier before we came live. To see Donovan Peoples-Jones win Special Teams Player of the Week, I want to give him his flowers, and the reason I want to give him his flowers is because a lot of people know that he was one of the number one top 5 receivers coming out when he was a high school recruit his senior year. His biggest specialty was returning punts and kickoffs. He didn't get an opportunity to do that much at Michigan. And when we first put him back there, when we first drafted him, and even last year, it just looked like a deer in headlights. And then to turn around and, last week finally be able to see lanes open up, hit the right lane, make the right moves, and to finally break one. It's some hard work and some dedication to improve your game, finally being rewarded. And for that, I'm going to give him his flowers.
Here's the Cleveland touchdowns for those of you that missed it. They had a 76-yard punt return for a touchdown, a 4-yard fumble return for a touchdown, and
pick six.
a 16-yard pick six, and 2 field goals. That was Cleveland's scoring. So it was not pretty by any means.
It was like 35 points in some fantasy leagues this week.
Yeah, it was insane.
Anything else about this game?
I'm just glad it's over.
Aren't you playing the Bengals this week?
Yes.
So you're not worried about playing the Bengals? You look
Not
red
at all.
hot right now, and Jamar Chase is back.
They were red hot last year, and they drove down. It was a pick six, and then that offense looked like deer in headlights. I'm not worried until Zach Taylor swallows his pride and decides to double team Myles Garrett and to stop and to actually focus on the run game. Until they do that, I'm not worried. This team believes that they're in their head. The way Joe Burrow talks to the media after every time they play the Browns, they're in their head. You hear Jamar Chase and the Migos, as they call them, the receiver duo and podcast all on the offseason. They're always talking about the Browns and how the Browns this and the Browns that, and they haven't done anything yet. So until they prove it, I don't really see it happening. Do I think it'll be closer? Yes. Do I have some reasons to be concerned? Yes. But do I think they figure it out? Absolutely, because they can't stop the run. They've always been struggling against the run. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I think the way that they're going to use them and lean on them and then throw the ball when they have to, kind of, do the same thing, run the same things and use the Deshaun Watson the same way they used Jacoby Brissett early on until he's really ready and you see the Deshaun Watson of old.
Any other
slow start.
thoughts on this?
I was
game?
just happy.
Good.
They covered
ahead,
the
Joe.
7.5 points. They covered the 7.5 point spread for me, so I'll take that part of the game.
I didn't think they were going to do that.
At first, it didn't look that way, but they pulled ahead and got it done. I'm happy.
Oh, and does anybody want Jedrick Wells? If we can work out a trade here that makes sense, I'll go talk to Andrew on the weekend.
No
I think you hit the
takers.
nail on the
No
head
takers.
there. I think anybody that expected anything different from Deshaun Watson than what he got was kidding themselves. Dude hasn't played football in 700 days. He's probably not going to look good next week. You hope he takes the step forward each week and looks a little bit better every week, but he's probably not going to return to himself until 2023. It's just the reality of the situation. It takes a long time to get that back under you.
No offense, Evan, but I want to see DJ Reader just plant his sorry butt and sack after sack after sack after sack next week.
That's okay, but he's not known as a pass rusher, and I'm not worried about him as a pass rusher. And he's listed. He's known as a run stop guy, and he ain't done that yet. So we'll see.
A little disappointed in Chubb, though. You figure against the worst run defense in the NFL, he would have did a little better than 17 for 80, but maybe
I think I have the reason for that. And the reason I believe that is because our best blocking tight end is out, and David Njoku, who should be back this weekend. And Ethan Posich really stepped up this year and made it a seamless switch for our offensive line. But now we got Yogi in the middle, who's traditionally a swing guard or a swing tackle for us after James Hudson, stepping in to play center. And I think the more he gets comfortable, the better the run game will start to look. I wouldn't be surprised if they start focusing more on a screen game, which they were trying to do early in the year and didn't have success, to try and do some things like that to help this offense move along.
And the other part of that was that there were 3 possessions where they scored, but they never had the ball. So Chubb never had the opportunity to even do anything.
True.
That is true.
Yep.
Any other thoughts on this one?
Actually, yeah. I think we should play Jacoby
right.
Brissett next week, to be honest with you. And the only reason I'm saying that is because it'll be a fluid offensive game. The guys are comfortable with him. And I feel like if we beat the Bengals, the Bumgles, excuse me, if we beat the Bumgles, we got the Dirty Birds the week after. And if we win that, we have a tiebreaker and a lead over the top 2 teams in the division. And then at that point, if we already know that Washington's not going to be ready and we really want to make a playoff run, why not go for it now? Because that's what the talk was before we even made the trade, was that could Baker figure it out? Because this is our playoff window. And what moves were we going to make? And now that it seems like the defense is turning it on yet again in the second half, which I absolutely can't stand, do you guys think it would make more sense if you know he's not going to be absolutely ready and be the quarterback we need? Would it make more sense to just wait and try next year and make a push this year with Jacoby Brissett?
I totally agree with that. But the only thing, they're paying the guy $1 trillion. So would they consider
But he's only
doing
getting
that?
$1 million this year, though.
I agree with you 1,000%. I think their best bet is with the quarterback that's been with them, that's got the offense flowing, or, that's been there. But I'm not so sure they'll do that.
Would you at least play Watson the first half to see where he is?
No, I would play him in the second half because I feel like if we put Brissett out there and we get on them early, I feel like we could still follow the same game plan with Watson in the second half. Because when Brissett's in the game, we lead the league in scoring in the first half, especially on the first drive. 9 times out of 10, we score a touchdown on the first drive when Jacoby Brissett has been the quarterback. And I think if we get up big and we force them into a passing situation where they got to focus on passing the ball, that unleashes Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. And then on the offensive side, you could throw screens, quick passes, RPOs, and run the ball with Nick Chubb.
You're not going to find me rooting for the Browns. Sorry.
It's okay. I don't root for the Squealers either.
But I enjoy the talk, Evan. It's all good fun,
Absolutely. It's all love. I care about everybody on this panel. But at the end of the day, I don't like the Squealers, I don't like the Bungles, and I don't like them Pigeons down in Baltimore either.
Yeah, I'm going on his show tomorrow night, I believe, if I get out of work on time.
It's okay. You can tell them I don't like them either.
All right. Any other thoughts on this game? All right. Next game.
It's actually about that time for me, Adam. Do you want me to come back or?
Yeah, if we're still alive, you can always pop back.
All right, so everybody, I'm the host of Talking Sports by the Lake. I got to take care of some stuff right quick. You can follow me on Twitter at Brogdon Evan, and I'll be back in a minute.
See you, Evan.
Bye, Evan. And then there were 5.
Mark.
Yes, sir.
I guess we'll go with you first. We're excited to finally beat your rival again.
What do you mean, finally?
I mean,
We beat the Bears
I guess
time.
A win I was more getting at. You have the real deal. You have the real deal in number 9 for sure. He's starting to fit that role as a
Watson
huge receiver on this team. And I really wish I had him in any of my keeper or dynasty leagues, and I don't. because he showed that he can also catch passes from Jordan Love,
yes.
And maybe them two have a awkward chemistry if we're going to see it.
The guys,
because who knows when the thumb's finally going to go out for Rodgers.
Yeah. The thing that disappointed me on Sunday as I was watching through Twitter, the Packers are down 19-10, and I'm watching people on Packers Twitter, and not everybody, but a lot of people were saying it's time for Rodgers to go. It's time to just disassemble the whole team. Nobody is playing well. Everything is crap. And then you see what they did to come back and actually win that game, and it's silence. So, I'm disappointed in people for giving up on the team when you know that the possibility is still out there. And I've been really frustrated this year with people complaining about Rodgers. I'm going to read you a list. Tell me if you know any of these names. Lynn Dickey, Anthony Dilweg, Brett Favre, obviously, Matt Flynn, Brett Hundley, Blair Keel, Jordan Love, Don Mikowski, Adam Risher, Scott Tolzien, Mike Tomczak, Seneca Wallace, David Whitehurst, Randy Wright, and Jim Zorn.
I know all
In
those
addition-
names.
In addition to Aaron Rodgers, those have been the starting quarterbacks for the Packers since I became a fan. So if you give me Rodgers, I'm going to be stupid happy for as long as he wants to play.
It's been a hot minute since I heard the name Seneca, though.
Yeah, Seneca Wallace. I remember him as a Seahawk, not as a.
That,
Packer.
has been a good long
was a
while
brief-
since I heard the name Seneca.
It was a
Seneca
brief,
Wallace,
ugly
wow.
experiment, but you
Oh,
just
my
can't give up
goodness.
on a team like that. And, the Packers are not likely to get into the playoffs. It would take a whole bunch of miracles for them to get there. But I'm just happy to see them play well when they have the opportunity. And I'm always happy to see them beat the Bears.
Good
Yeah, we've
question. Who's giving you more aggravation this year, Jair Alexander or Eric Stokes?
I think Stokes has given me irritation for a long time, so I'm used to that. But Jair Alexander, some of the things that he's done this year, he hasn't been good, and he kind of redeemed himself at the end of the game Sunday. But I would be surprised if Barry is still the defensive coordinator next season. And I saw some reports today that maybe Jim Leonard from Wisconsin might be the next DC in Green Bay. And I would like to see that.
Also, do you think Darnell Savage gets booted from your secondary?
It kind of depends on who else comes in. The Packers had a lot of good secondary players. A few of them have been injured, and we've got some guys that have come around. Can't think of the guy's name, but he had a couple of interceptions, a couple of knockdowns last week?
Are you talking about
Um,
Etienne Amos?
No, Nixon. He's been
Oh,
playing
yeah.
decently in the defensive backfield, and they actually have a punt returner now. So, one that catches the ball. So that's been a big step forward as far as the special teams goes. But it's just been a frustrating season. And Adam knows I had him picked for 12, 13 wins this year.
Yes, you did.
And-
That paper is over there in the box. I did not
Should
bring
be-
that out.
It should be in the trash right now.
Uh,
It's been an awful season, and it's not a Green Bay season, and it's hard to put your finger on what exactly has been wrong.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you rather fall apart during the regular season instead of being one and done in the playoffs after being the first seed in the playoffs again?
I would love to be in the playoffs again. I would much rather do that than I'm a Royals fan, so I've been through a lot of years of crap. But so there've been a few good
I
seasons
was
in my
just going
life.
to say,
and
Mark is a loyal Royals fan.
Yes, I am. Even longer than I've been a Packers fan. So
That is how I met Mark. We did a Royals show first,
yes,
Right.
and then he
And,
says I'm a Packers fan. So
Your
Yeah,
thoughts
I-
about Kenny
Go ahead.
Clark and the two Georgia Bulldogs? Because my brother's a Packer fan, and he kept hyping up that you guys got two guys from the championship Georgia Bulldogs, and it's just been like crickets, except for like a few weeks where Quay Walker might have like a big game, or I think he got like an injection, and then like nothing else.
yeah,
So that
Quay
like
has had
whole middle.
yeah. He hasn't tackled well. He gets in the way of people, but then he tries to do an arm tackle, or he just has not been tackling well at all. And Kenny Clark has been, people have been neutralizing him, and he hasn't been what he's been in the past either. Really, nobody on the defense has been what they've been in the past. And that's disappointing. And I think a lot of that comes down to coaching and the scheme and what you're trying to get accomplished. But they've also lost Rashawn Gary. They lost Devondre Campbell for a number of weeks. Jair Alexander was out for a long time. So again, I go back to injuries, and you have to deal with those kind of things. But
Yep.
there's been a lot of that happening all across the board, offense and defense.
Okay, and I have one last question. Do you guys sign Elton Jenkins next year after paying David Bakhtiari all that money, or do you see him being somewhere else next season?
I think they would like to bring back Jenkins. The problem is that you've got so much money tied up in Bakhtiari, and
Mhm.
that's another one who's been out a lot. He's played, maybe 2-3 games where he's actually been himself this year, and that's been a tough go of it. And the offensive line has kind of been a revolving door of sorts all season long. And Jenkins hasn't been healthy either. So, you have to look at how things are at the end of the season, see where you're at, see who you've got, who you want to bring back. I just keep coming back to it. It's been a mess, and I hate to see it, but that's about the best way that you can describe it. So I would love to see Jenkins back because I think he's good. When he and Bakhtiari are playing together on the left side of that line, they protect really well. Rodgers didn't even get touched on Sunday. And it was a beautiful thing to see because when you give him time, he's going to find somebody eventually. So if they get the linemen working together and doing what they're capable of, they can do well.
If Justin Fields gets some wide receivers, is he going to be more dangerous?
I was going to ask that, like, how concerned are we about Justin Fields' ability to throw the ball? Because this is the third week out of the last 4 games that he's been asked to throw the ball to help them come back, and all he's done is throw in interceptions and turn the football over. So how concerned are we about Justin Fields as a passer?
Yeah, the last time we were on this show, we talked about that. He's got the stats. He's still at about 245 yards, passing, but
Right.
getting the job done, right? That's we still. I think the jury's out on that. Still, the stats are there, but when are the wins going to come? Instead of throwing interceptions in those
his
situations.
defense is the bottom 3 receiving core, so we'll put that into consideration. But if you're giving the
Right.
ball to the other team, you're not giving your guys a chance. So
That's right. So I guess that
Darnell
remains to
Mooney,
be
what the
seen.
hell happened to him?
question for you, Mark, though.
Yeah.
Do you see them eating that $9.5 million dead cap hit and letting Aaron Jones walk in the offseason?
No, I don't. I would like to see Green Bay stick with Jones and Dillon. I think they're a really awesome combination, but they have to get him the ball. And that's been a big issue in a few of their games this year. They've gotten away from the run. Even when they start off running the ball well, they get away from it and they just never get back to it. And when you've got A.J. Dillon and you've got a 3rd and 1, I don't ever want to see a team in a shotgun formation. You should be, if you got a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, you should be lining up. And I'm an old Nebraska guy, I'll admit that. You should be lining up with your quarterback under center, Dillon behind him, Jones behind him, and either hand it off to Dillon on a dive up the middle or let Dillon clear the way up the middle for Jones to go through. So I think that's a really dynamic combination right there.
Yeah, that old power eye in Nebraska.
Yeah.
But both guys have been injured for several weeks this year, right? Both Aaron and AJ.
Dillon, I think, was out for a couple of weeks. Jones was out maybe 1 or 2. So, yeah, little nicks and dings like a running back gets. But that's kind of been the history with Aaron Jones, especially. He's always missed 2-3 games a season, it seems like, with some kind of an ache or something going on.
Yeah.
It's kind of
you had like
playing running back.
Yeah, you've also got 2 guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield. And at the start of the season, we were expecting to see a lot more plays where both of them were on the field at the same time, with maybe Jones split out as a wideout with all the young receivers. And we haven't really seen that at all.
Is it time for Randall Cobb to hang it up?
I think he will pretty soon. The thing with Cobb is that Rodgers trusts him, and he feels like he can throw him the ball anywhere at any time. But I think he's also developing that with Christian Watson right now. And Lazard has been Lazard. He's not going to be, he's not going to be great. He's not going to be a Pro Bowl kind of guy. But I think Watson has that potential. He's got the speed to go deep. If you hit him on a slant, he can be gone in an instant. So I think the more confidence that he gets and the more confidence that the team has in calling plays for him, the better he's going to get. And again, when Romeo Dobbs comes back, he's got some potential there as well. And I think that he got some trust from the quarterback room as well. And wow. And even Samari Toure coming over from Nebraska.
It went right in their water bowl.
That sounded like a big crash, dude.
It went right in their water bowl. Like, it bounced right in. Like, I could never do this again. Because it's a Kong. Like, it's got that weird shape. And now she doesn't know what to do. All right, she subtracted. All right.
Now, don't feel bad about that 12-13 win prediction, because there's somebody on this show, the only one that I can speak for, that picked them to go to the Super Bowl this year. So my predictions are usually more correct than not, but that one might have been a little off.
Well, I'm not going to say anything about who it was
you
either,
picked the
but
Packers to go to the Super Bowl?
I picked them to go to the Super Bowl against the Bills. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had them for 11 wins, and when we did our preseason predictions on our show, to me, it just came down. I wasn't going to bet against Rodgers until I saw it, but now
I think I also had the Rams for 10 or 11 at least wins. But there's somebody here who couldn't even find a win for the Seahawks.
I think I found two. Oh, let me grab that paper, Mark. Damn it.
I know you found one. I think it was against the Giants even.
that's going to be it. There's a couple interesting scenarios with quarterbacks in the offseason. You got Goff on a buyout for $10 million, or the Lions stick with him for 2 years. You've got Geno Smith do a contract. I mean, Derek Carr's assumedly going to get cut. Tannehill could get cut. There's a ton of quarterbacks that are going to be moving.
Yeah. It may not be to the level of last year, but there's going to be a lot of activity.
Atlanta, the Giants.
I had one win
Panthers.
for the Seahawks.
That's what I thought.
I think, Houston is like, I mean, obviously they know what they're going to do. I mean, we assume Atlanta's going to draft one, but I mean, if they spend third round capital on Ritter and then a high first round pick on a quarterback the next year, that's terrible management. But
You mean like the Bears did with Trubisky and Fields?
I mean, Josh Rosen and Kyler Murray come to mind.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm gonna make 9 teams regret not drafting me. No, I don't think you are, bud. I don't think you are.
I don't think you're making one not feel bad about it now.
I can't believe the Cleveland Browns picked him up earlier in the season. I totally forgot about him. Yeah, running backs and quarterbacks in the offseason is going to be real interesting.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, potentially Aaron Jones. He is an opt-out.
Right.
And then you've got, a supposedly loaded
Please
running
don't
back
mention
class.
the guy at MetLife. Please don't mention those names together. I beg of you. I get enough of that living here.
And then you have the
Do
loaded
you
running
remember
back
what color
class.
you were?
again. So
What?
Mark, do you remember what color you were?
I didn't
only
even
had
know you were
Paul- I only
doing
had
colors,
Paul
man.
down as Paul was pink.
Oh, you give it the British
I
guy.
don't remember if you were orange or.
I don't know. Like I said, I think I had Green Bay for 13 wins, if that helps at all.
Yeah, I remember you. I remember that one. I was just looking at the Rams.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to figure that out.
I don't know how you guys predicted the Rams, but I can confidently say that I think we all got them wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I had them
we
for at least
definitely
10 or
all got
11,
them
I'm sure.
for sure. For sure.
And now Stafford might be forced into retirement, and which
Right.
means McVay might be gone.
I think McVay wants out.
I think he does too. And I mean, he admitted once Stafford, Cup, Donald, and Ramsey break up, he's gone.
Where he goes, I don't know. Does he go back to being Does he go back to wanting to be an offensive coordinator? Does he get another job?
I think he goes to the announcer's booth. That seems like his thing.
I could see that.
Yeah, wouldn't be
I could
surprised.
I could see him joining Whitworth on Amazon.
All right. Anything else on this game?
Aaron Rodgers will pull an Aaron Rodgers.
Wasn't it last year where I think it was in Chicago where you could see him mouthing "I own you"? Was
Yes.
that the game? Yeah. So
He does that every game.
yeah. But that's what's the streak against the Bears now?
17 and
can't-
nothing.
Okay.
I know he's something like
that.
23-5 in his career.
Okay.
It's kind of like Bill Belichick against the Jets. 14 straight or something right now. Is that what it is, Joe? You're in that division.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the numbers. I know Belichick had it again. I mean, even with the Bills. I mean, I think the Bills only beat the Patriots twice when Brady was the quarterback, and one time they had already clinched first overall and benched everybody and didn't even show up for the game. So they only beat him maybe 2 or 3 times during the whole Brady era, with New England. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it is against the Giants. 14 sounds right. I'm not 100% on that, but it's a pretty big number.
All right, next game. Anything else on this Packers game, boys, girls? Next game. Click. My StreamYard
covered
going
that
really
one.
slow. Oh wait, I already did this
Yeah, we
game.
did that one.
What the hell?
We did that.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought I deleted it. Anyway, every once in a while you get a blooper. There we go.
Yay!
There we go.
I want
This
to talk
game
about
wound
this game.
up being a whole different story, or did we expect Trevor Lawrence to suck?
The game
He's
cleared
also
the
out.
over, thankfully, which I bet on, but it didn't go the way that I thought it would.
He's also out for a couple weeks. He's supposedly week to week now.
Lawrence is expected to play Sunday. I saw a report about 20 minutes before I hopped on.
Anyway, I love this game. I love the Lions are playing well, and I cannot wait for them to sneak into the playoffs. I'm so excited. I love seeing Jamal Williams play well. I love seeing Amon-Ra St. Brown play well.
He's the leading rusher with touchdowns this year. Well, he's in that leading class, ain't he? He's got 9 or something.
Yeah, he is.
Jamal Williams has like 14 or 15. He didn't have 9. He got a ton.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Give me
Yeah, I
more Lions.
Expected the Lions to win this game. I didn't expect them to win by almost 4 touchdowns, but I
did.
think
I
it was
did.
just a good.
I did.
You did.
I
It was
did.
a good matchup. Good
Okay,
matchup, and I
let's
think
see. Travis Etienne is out. They have the worst tight end in all known history of tight ends from the Giants. That I'm not going to even name his name. They paid Christian Kirk astronomical wide receiver money. They traded away James Robinson. DJ Chark is a Lion right now, I believe. So
Yes, he is. He
I
had 5
expected a
catches
beat.
for 98 yards.
I expected a beatdown. I expected a huge beatdown, and I was not disappointed.
Mark, does
Yeah,
this team scare you a little bit?
Travis Etienne played. He had 13 carries for 54 yards.
Yeah, was this the game he was questionable for, or was that last week?
Yeah, coming into the game, he was questionable, but he ended up playing. Like, he ended up getting like 90% of the snaps, too, which I was kind of surprised about. But
Okay. Yeah, it's just crazy how the tide has turned. In Los Angeles last year, they were like Jared who? And now in Detroit, it seems like they're like Drew who? It's Goff played a great game. I mean, 340 yards. and he's got this team going. And they're probably one of the most fun teams to watch in the entire NFL.
They've always been a fun team to watch. They just never could win.
Right.
I love Dan
Yep.
Campbell. Like, I loved Dan Campbell in his first presser. I love Dan Campbell now. I'm so happy they snapped that losing streak because it made me so sad to hear about Dan Campbell potentially getting fired in the offseason and all that. This dude has them ready to run through a brick wall on a weekly basis, and it does not matter who they're lined up against. I mean, they went toe for toe with Buffalo, who obviously was in Detroit, but Buffalo was in Detroit for 10 days. So it's not like they had to travel, right before the game started. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if Jared Goff's quarterback again in Detroit in 2023. Like, the offense is clearly not the issue with this team on a consistent basis. It is definitely the defensive side. So I could see them going pass rusher with that first round pick and, skipping out on a quarterback for at least another year.
Mm-hmm.
There's one major issue on offense, though. And I hate saying it, but it's been there for a couple weeks. Penei Sewell has been like this weird pre-snap penalty. I don't know what the hell happened to him this year. Mistake machine. Like, he's been sloppy in his job. He's been sloppy pre-snap. There's just something really weird going on with him. But aside from that, I don't know. Maybe it's just me because I really love the Lions, and I was kind of hoping they won the North or at least be top 2 in the North. But it feels like ever since they fired that coach a couple of weeks ago, like there's like this black cloud that's been like elevated from the team. They're playing harder. They're playing in better sync with the defense. It's just, I really love seeing them do well.
I don't know how much you guys care about metrics, but in the last 6 weeks, the Lions are 8th in DVOA on offense and 6th in DVOA on defense. So strength of schedule based on how their offense defense is playing, they're playing pretty good football.
Mm-hmm.
Amon Ross, Dane Brown doing pretty good this year too. No one expected that at all. What do you
watch the end of
break
last
down?
year?
Yeah, he was playing really well at the end of last season.
You really can't treat Amon Ross St. Brown like you expect him to play like his brother, because Equiminius, I'm sorry, he sucked for the Packers and he sucks for the Bears. Like, the St. Brown brothers are not at all similar at all, aside from being related.
And named after gods.
Yeah. I was about to say that.
Mark, do these Lions scare you in the division a little bit?
Everybody scares me at this point, and we've already lost to the Lions once, so it wouldn't surprise me to do it again. Generally, the game that the Packers play against the Lions towards the end of the season, the Lions always play well, and they've always played the Packers tough, especially in that second game. So I expect it to happen again. And I did look up Jamal Williams. He's got 14 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, I knew it was 14 or 15. He's got a ton.
Yeah.
I'm just happy as somebody with the last name Swift, DeAndre decided to show up again.
There you
He's
go.
been banged up a lot this year.
He's been banged up a lot every year.
14 for 62 and a pick, 4.4 yards per carry.
And to be honest with you, I mean, most of his recent struggles have just been Jamal Williams has been the better running back. And he's going to continue to get more of the snaps. But it's nice to see him come out, have a real efficient day with his touches. So,
Okay, Mike, I gotta ask you a question. What will hurt more, missing the playoffs or losing 3 straight to the Lions?
Missing the playoffs. It's become an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got the guys that Green Bay's got, they should be better than what they are.
My brother said if he loses 3 times to the Lions, he's gonna start chucking certain Packer gear.
Well,
He did
again,
not
I'm a
wanna
Royals
see-
fan.
He did not want to see the Lions win 3 straight.
Well, in baseball, if the Royals beat the Yankees a few times throughout a season, I feel good about it, even though I know that the Royals have had a bad year. And I was just looking at Green Bay this season. They've beaten the Bears twice. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Patriots. They beat the Buccaneers. So, you look at those games, and again, they should be better than what they are.
Mm-hmm.
I had a field day after the Packers beat the Cowboys and then the Eagles beat the Packers. Oh man, you couldn't pay me enough to shut up. Those Cowboys fans get on my nerves.
And that's the other thing. Green Bay was right there with the Eagles. They were right there with Buffalo. They've played really well against a lot of really good teams and been close a lot of times. But you know, again, I'm a Nebraska fan, and we were close a lot of times over the last 3 years, and that
How you
didn't
feel
turn
about
into
Rule?
wins. And I feel really good about Rule.
I would if I was a Nebraska fan too.
Just in the week that he's been the coach, he has said some things and done some things. Where I live is 402 miles away from Lincoln. He was here last weekend. So that's a big step. That means he's been here more times than Scott Frost was in the whole time that he was the head coach here. So I feel good about it. I think he's going to be better as a college coach than he ever was at Carolina. And so I think he can do some good things, get some good recruits into Nebraska for us. I'm hoping.
Zach,
anyway.
go back to that conversation we had earlier about, you know, like you want to take over like an NFL team, but then that team is god awful, and all of a sudden, you know, you're back to going. Well, I don't know. College is pretty big. I don't really call. I mean, you're still a head coach, so I mean, you still have a pretty damn good job.
But there are some guys who are they're better college coaches than they are NFL coaches. And
Game's
for a while,
totally different.
yeah, for a while, Pete Carroll was that. Look how bad he was with the Jets and the Patriots when he coached them. And then he went to USC, turned things around there, and then got the program suspended, or not suspended, but got him on probation. Then he skipped town and went to Seattle, and he's done well there. But there's just a lot of coaches that have tried to be NFL coaches, and it didn't work for him. Lou Holtz was one. He lasted 13 games in the NFL.
Brian
Harbaugh
Kelly.
seems happier at Michigan than he ever did as a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah.
I had a quick question for you. Do you see the Lions upsetting the Vikings this Sunday?
I would love to see it.
I don't think it's an upset. The Lions are favored.
Yeah, they are.
I don't ever really pay attention to that because usually they have it by who they like better in fantasy. A lot of the times when they're like closely matched or it's a divisional game, and it always feels like however they tip the scales, it always ends up being in the opposite. So I'm really trying to ignore that because I don't want to see the Lions lose everything they're kind of building on right now. So
To
Just me
Vegas's credit, the line makers, the Lions, if you just watch their games over the last 5 weeks, they're definitely a better football team than the Vikings. The Vikings have, you know, come by the skin of their teeth a few times and have had some definite weak spots in the armor. The Lions look pretty good right now.
yeah, but the Vikings beat the Buffalo Bills and the Lions coughed up the win to the Bills. So that's also part of the reason why in my head I don't want to jinx it.
Well,
That's
just to
the
let you know, we're gonna go. Hold on, we're gonna go right to this game right now, since we're on the Vikings and Jets.
And
Good, Joe. You were
No,
saying
but-
something.
No, I was going back to that Lions Vikings game there. I said probably one of the best bets of the week would be the Lions. That, you know, there's the rule there that I go by. Whenever it seems like the wrong team is favored, you go with you go with it. There's a reason. Somebody knows something.
That's my thing is I'm never going to bet against Vegas. Like those guys get
Right.
paid to make those lines, and that's their
Right.
job. Like they know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
And the thing with the Vikings is they're 10-2, but the last time I looked, and I think it's probably still true, they've been outscored this season.
Wow.
Yeah,
So they're winning a lot
Either
of
that or
close
they're
games.
+3 or some weird stuff like that. Like they're real close to a even scoring differential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when they
Well, they
lose,
should-
they don't just lose; they get blown out.
Right.
They should have lost this game too.
They tried to.
The Jets just couldn't capitalize anything in the red zone. I mean, look
Mike
at Jay Line's numbers: 5 for 5 on field goals. That's
Mike
not gonna
White
win
looked
you football
awful at the
games.
beginning of this game. Like I'm shocked they got it within 3 points at the end. Like
5.
5.
you watched the beginning of that game, and it felt like that 40-3 game that the Vikings had against the Cowboys was going to be opposite. It was going to be like 40-3 on the Jets, and then I flipped back because I was getting so frustrated with the stupid tie game. And then the Jets are right there, and they can't handle it at the end. But it's just like I was shocked how fast that team fell apart. Like they had the whole Mike White shirts on. They were coming in there with the Mighty Ducks look, and they like were feeling themselves, and it just they no-showed on both sides of the ball for so long. It was like really shocking how bad it was.
Seemed they waked up in the second half though.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I do a lot of daily fantasy, and I had Mike White on a few teams. He was one of my best value quarterback picks, and started really slow, and it looked like a wrong pick, but he got going, and he had over 350 yards, I believe.
369, but the two interceptions killed you.
Yes,
and
no again,
touchdowns.
They had those chances.
Which the two interceptions shouldn't have happened. I mean, they were just bouncing around balls. The one hit Corey Davis directly in the chest or right off the helmet, and bounced right into the Vikings' hands. The other one was pretty much the same way. So I mean, both them interceptions. I can't blame Mike White, but they're going to go on Mike White.
Yeah, they're going to go on him, and of course, lose for me here. But and again, they should have capitalized on some of those red zone opportunities too.
Greg Zuerlein would have been the guy to have, making that 60-yarder and 5 for 5.
If I'm not mistaken, did White have a rushing touchdown?
Yes, he did have a rushing touchdown.
Okay, but still, I mean, they had other opportunities that they should have capitalized on.
They ran the ball well as a team. I just don't think they did it enough. Only 24 rushing attempts when they were getting 5 yards a clip. Like, I don't think that I know they were down pretty early, but I think they gave up on the run like way too soon in that game.
Yeah.
Wasn't this the game where Michael Carter got hurt, the running back?
Yes.
No, he was hurt the previous game. He was out this game.
Oh yeah, Zavana Knight.
Yeah,
I love this kid.
Bam Knight.
I love when they signed him as an unrestricted draft free agent. I was really excited about this kid coming out of Florida, I believe, right?
I want to say UCF, but that doesn't sound right.
Not sure.
I'm looking.
But I was excited when they signed him off of the. He didn't get drafted, and they signed him into the backfield.
North Carolina State.
Yeah, NC State.
Yeah, Carter got hurt a couple weeks ago against the Broncos, I think.
Yeah, he full practice today, so he's good to go.
Who Carter did?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get my updates yet.
I'm in 20 fantasy leagues, so I keep track of this stuff very regularly.
I'm in 4, and I made playoffs in 3. So how many playoffs did you make, or are they still decided yet, right?
I got to win a couple to make playoffs, but I'm mostly in dynasty leagues, and I'm kind of caught in some rebuilds, so about 50-50.
I have a pretty good dynasty team. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. I think I'm set.
Always
But
nice.
I'm not first.
Always nice when your quarterbacks are taken care of.
Right. I have Aaron Jones. There you go, Mark.
There you go. Good for you.
Anyway, anything else about this game?
No.
All right. This is one of them games that we don't talk about. All right. And then we get the great tie.
Ugh.
One of the hardest things to do. Ryan, this would be more towards you. What did you feel about this? Because both these teams are in your division, according to your background there.
I don't think the Giants are a playoff team. I looked at their schedule. We talked about it on Tuesday on our recap. Like it seems like that the league has adjusted to what Daboll has doing, and truthfully, they just don't. This is the worst receiving core in the league. My co-host and I we had a debate about.
They still the Bears.
To be honest with you, I would probably take the potential of Chase Claypool over anybody in the Giants receiving core. And when Darnell Mooney's healthy, he's definitely better than anybody in the Giants receiving core. And then he was
He's out for the
actually on
year.
he was on the Texans. I was like, I'd take Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks over anybody in the Giants receiving. Like, it is the worst in the league to be. There's no other way to say it. So it's not. There's not a whole lot you can do when you can't really get production outside the numbers, especially in today's NFL. So the fact that they're 7-4-1 and we're playing as well as they were was kind of a miracle, essentially. But the defense, I like the Giants' defense. I mean, if they do make the playoffs, it'll be on the defense. But they don't have enough offensively, and their schedule coming up. Got the Eagles. They play the Commanders
Twice.
again. Yeah, and then they have the
Twice.
Vikings. They have the Colts, and then they have the Eagles. So to me, the Commanders are going to pass them as a playoff team. The Commanders are 6-1 in their last 7 games. They're just they're playing better football right now.
Yeah, what's the reason? Why did the NFL change the overtime from 15 to 10 minutes? I mean, that's the stupidest thing they could have done. I mean, why would you want more ties?
They say it's player safety.
Yeah, I don't
Everything
think
is
5
player
minutes is going to make a
safety.
difference.
Yeah, yeah. They use player safety for a lot of things that maybe they shouldn't. But yeah, that was the explanation when they changed it.
But they added a whole extra game because money.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, what wasn't that also part of the changing the overtime rules in the playoffs? They had to give up in the regular season.
Well, this happened before they changed those overtime rules, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a few years now that they've had this 10-minute guideline. I just don't understand.
Okay.
Why are you looking for more ties in your league? But
I wanted to ask a quick question because I am not objective about this game at all, especially about the MetLife team. Can we please say that Saquon Barkley Comeback Player of the Year storyline is dead and gone and buried now? Because he's awful. He's back to being awful.
Who would you give it to? Just out of curiosity. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Let's see.
I think that's kind of the big issue is like when it comes to obvious standout names, there aren't that many this year.
Technically, you could give it to Lamar Jackson. I mean, he was hurt last year.
It's hurt again.
He's hurt again.
Yeah, he's hurt again.
You could give it to like maybe Derrick Henry. I know a lot of
He's
people
not
wanted
really-
to be. I know a lot of people
Henry's not
wanted
really
to
having
be.
that great of a year.
A lot of people wanted to be Geno Smith because he made himself relevant again.
Goff's in there. You could put Heineke in that competition, to be honest with you, because if the Commanders make the playoffs immediately after, they switch quarterbacks, it's not, some kind of coincidence.
right.
Yep.
That could be it too.
I just something about Saquon Barkley.
Unfortunately, it's
just
the
really
name on it, so
riles-
that's why he's probably gonna get it.
Okay, if he gets Comeback Player of the Year, I kid you not, and I hate saying this because it really made me angry when it happened, but this will probably be worse than the year Robert Tonyan had one of the best seasons I've ever seen for a tight end. And he got snubbed for the Pro Bowl because of Evan Ingram, who could not catch a ball to save his goddamn life.
That's
Got
helped
it
the Eagles
instead
on
because
more
he
than one
played for the
occasion.
New York Football Giants and they wanted one Giant to make the Pro Bowl that year. So Robert Tonyan, who was actually a good player who played really well for a good team, got snubbed for Evan Ingram going to the Pro Bowl.
But the Pro Bowl isn't what the Pro Bowl used to be. I think they're going flag this
Nope.
year.
It's
They are
not,
going
but
flag for the first time, but it still counts when people talk about respect for players, when they talk about a player's legacy. How many times did you make the Pro Bowl? How many times did you make All Pro? So
And it's
in that
their
regard,
contract.
it also is a thing that gets them more money with the incentive. So in all those
Yep.
respects, it really does matter. And in a year like that, where Robert Tunyon hasn't had many healthy years, and he had one of the most enjoyable years for a tight end to have, and he got snubbed just because somebody was in the New York area and the Jets and Giants didn't have anybody else that they could even try to remotely make a Pro Bowler, and he gets in that way. It was really skeezy for me to see that.
Yeah, especially when you look at offensive linemen who don't really have any, notable statistics that are tracked on a regular basis to help, enlarge their Hall of Fame chances that are already, ridiculously small. They look at Pro Bowls and all pro teams. Like Jason Kelsey's probably going to be a Hall of Famer because he was a Pro Bowl, because of how many Pro Bowls he made and how many all pro teams he made. There's no other measurable statistics really that you can use for offensive linemen other than what do your peers think of you.
And that stupid PFF
Right.
stuff.
Joe Thomas is going to be a first-time ballot.
He better be. I feel so bad for him, though, because right after he left Cleveland, they had that winning season.
I thought it was funny the day the new guard came in, he let go 3 sacks, and Joe Thomas didn't allow any sacks. Where's Devin?
Didn't Scary Terry also break a record in this game? Like, 4th person ever to have 900 plus seasons in his first 4 years or something like that.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't really pay attention to any of these.
I didn't. Yeah, I missed that.
I'll try and get a representative from one of these 2 teams next time.
I'm glad that game got flexed to primetime, though. I'm hoping it's, maybe there's a result that's not a tie next time they play. But I mean, it wasn't a bad game to watch.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, it really was. When it comes down to Gano having to be the reason why you either win or tie, is a bad game.
Didn't Gano just come off of one of the most accurate seasons in NFL history?
He also coughed it up in overtime by not being able to score. So there's that.
All right, let's move on. I think this
All right,
starts
you know
the
what?
4th.
I'm gonna have to bail out on you guys here too. So I got to deal with 8th graders early in the morning.
Good luck
Good luck.
against the Jets next
Yeah,
week.
good luck.
Yes, well, I'm going to the game, so it should be
I'm
good.
going.
I got a lot.
I got the Christmas Eve game in Pittsburgh. I got tickets for that one.
Awesome.
The
I got a lot of
50th
college friends
anniversary.
from New York. They're Jets fans, so it should be good.
Take it easy, Joe.
But yes,
Take
thanks
care, Joe.
again. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Always great talking to you guys.
Joe,
Nice
how
to meet
people
you, Joe.
get you, buddy?
On my Twitter here, Joe Dell Sports.
Thanks
That's
for popping on, Joe. We'll talk.
I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
See you, Joe.
All righty.
All right, bye.
Oh, there we go.
Wow, I'm so large now. Holy shit.
You're huge, Ryan.
I know. Jesus.
Oh, goodness.
All right. Next game, we talked about this team already and the disappointment for the bottom team. Ryan, now I can see you when I pop up the screen. This game ended up being actually closer than I thought.
I feel like I'm being discriminated against here
Why?
because we're missing a 1:00 game.
Are we?
No.
Oh, did I leave it out? No, I didn't. Ryan. We didn't. I was just making sure you paid attention. I was just making sure you paid attention.
Yeah.
We'll go back and talk about it.
Save the best for last, right?
We can
Am
do
I
that
the
too.
only one surprised that the Rams made this even a contest
Yeah, and-
without Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp,
It's all because
Matt
of Cam
Stafford,
Akers.
and Wolverton also had a neck injury?
Yeah, no, I'm stunned. I'm shocked that this game was a 4-point difference. But
Yeah.
that in itself right there says how hard it is to win divisional games because they they're crazy. I mean, you could add almost any one of those players that the Rams have designated out or out for the season, and maybe they make a difference and maybe they win. So divisional games are just nuts. But I'm just happy that, I wasn't entirely wrong about the Seahawks. People, obviously once they let Russell Wilson walk, thought they were going to be a top 3 pick. And I just said, if you look at the rest of this roster, they're really not a bad team. Like they have probably one of the more underrated wide receiver duos in the NFL. And they always run the ball well. Like Rashad Penny, I like Ken Walker coming out of college. They were going to run the football well. I didn't expect Geno Smith to be playing to the level that he is, but I didn't think that they were, one of the bottom 3 teams in the NFL. I thought that was a little ridiculous.
Good question.
What do they do now? Obviously, you're paying attention. Is Dallas or Homer ready to go?
Homer's going to be the guy this week. DJ Dallas is probably going to be out. Ken Walker's probably going to be out, but Homer practiced in full.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was going to ask you about. Do you think that Kenneth Walker is sat against Panthers because they then have to go and play the Niners on Thursday Night Football 4 days later? With that jammed ankle, I don't know how that affects a running back, but they said it didn't tear or it didn't go off the bone. It just jammed. And the Seahawks always have this like weird injury issue with running backs. So I'm wondering, do they sit him against Carolina, risk losing that game because they have to face the Niners on Thursday and they've already lost to the Niners once?
I think if you take Ken Walker out of the equation, Seattle still has enough firepower that they should be able to beat Carolina, who is a surprisingly tough team since Wilkes took over. But yeah, I think Ken Walker and DJ Dallas are out, more so because I just don't think they'll be available to play. But looking forward to that situation, that just adds more reasoning to have them sit for a week.
Did you see who they signed to the practice squad who might be
Wayne Gallman, baby. Wayne Gallman. Yeah, Travis Homer, Tony Jones Jr., and Wayne Gallman will probably be the active running backs for Seattle on Sunday. So unless something happens with,
wasn't he a Giant a couple weeks ago?
He was no, he was a Giant 2 years ago, and the Niners picked him up in free agency, cut him before the year started. Then he became a Falcon, I believe. Didn't work out there, and then got cut, and then this is, I think, his first team this year.
So he played 8 games for Minnesota last year.
Oh, I didn't even know he made it to Minnesota.
And signed with Kansas City earlier in the year. I didn't know that.
I did not either. When you talk about Seahawks and injured running backs, that goes all the way back to, Sherman Smith and Kurt Warner back in the late 70s, early 80s. They've been doing that to running backs for that long.
And that was back on that miserable AstroTurf of the Kingdom, right?
In the Kingdom. There were never so many people happy to see a stadium blown up than when they demolished the Kingdom.
Maybe not Ken Griffey Jr., right?
True. Of course, I was pretty happy when the Metrodome's roof caved in. I thought that was kind of funny. I told a buddy of mine that's a Vikings fan that was God's way of saying he hated that stadium too.
Oh, I like the Viking ship now. So, anything else exciting about this game besides the unexpected close?
Seahawks are a sneaky playoff team.
Yeah, they are.
Yes, I'm a Niner fan, and I hate the Seahawks with a great passion.
Well, Russell Wilson owned Gins.
That's not the reason why. It's because of the championship game where Navarro Bowman had the ball for over 2 minutes, got it sniped from him, and then as he's being loaded onto the car, Seahawk fans are throwing their trash at him. And I've hated the Seahawks ever since.
Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis were so damn good.
So I have a legitimate reason to hate the Seahawks, and it's not about the ownage, it's about the 12s. I hate the 12s. I hate Pete and his gum smacking and his ego trip. And no, I don't like them. I think they're dirty. I think they're disgusting and deplorable. And I wanted them to be bad this year, but of course, Pete Carroll won't ever go down. So, no big shock there.
All right. Anything else on this game before we go into? Is Devontae Smith a good play this week, Ryan? He's the most
To be
sneakiest
honest
player.
with you-
Like it seems like every 2 weeks he's worth 18, and every other week he's worth 5.
I mean, he was a good play this past week too.
Right. That's
Yeah.
what I mean.
Is-
That's what I'm talking about. Like,
He's
with
playing
Devontae
with-
Smith, are we gonna get?
Sorry.
Isn't he playing the Giants this week?
Yeah.
And Dory Jackson's still out, and I don't even know who the hell their other corners are
Yeah.
right now.
I mean, it wouldn't matter if Adoree Jackson was playing. He would follow A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown would probably make him, his son anyway. But
It's nice to see that you Eagle fans are very humble right now.
I mean, that's just the truth of it. Like, I do like Adoree Jackson. I liked Adoree Jackson when he was at Alabama, and I can't stand that school. But call a spoon a spoon. Like, A.J. Brown's probably the best receiver in the NFC East. And first off, this game didn't go the way that I thought it was going to. When the Eagles went 7-0, 8-0, I circled this game on the calendar. I said, this is our first loss right here, because the Eagles have had problems stopping the run all season, and I seem to be the only person in Philadelphia really talking about it until after the Commanders beat them. And then I was like, okay, now we're finally talking about it. So I thought the Titans were going to be able to run the football at will on the Eagles, but that just wasn't the case. And then I knew that the Titans had an underrated
they definitely
defense. I was like,
planned to shut down the run.
Yeah, they can cause problems for the Eagles offense, but I guess no, they can't.
I mean, Trevon Burks was their star player, and he got taken out.
Yeah, that was a real bad situation. Definitely deserved a flag, but that's nasty hit.
Yeah.
Do you think that Taylor Lewan is finally forced to retire? It's just like 2 straight years where this guy is like almost out for the year right away, and I don't see him coming back from all these injuries. They're not like little injuries either.
The Titans just need to blow it up. Like, people are talking about the reason they fired their GM was because they watched A.J. Brown trounce all over him. I'm like, no, they didn't fire their GM for one guy. They fired their GM because the Titans are stuck in purgatory where they're the best team in their division, clearly. So they're never going to be bad enough to have good picks to rebuild. But at the same time, they're not a top-tier team in the AFC. They can't compete with Kansas City. They can't compete with Cincinnati on a regular basis. So they can their GM. They just need to blow the whole thing up, if I'm being honest. They need to tell Taylor Lewan to retire. They need to cut Tannehill, find a trade partner for Derrick Henry or something. They need to just blow it up, let it all go.
I also felt like that was also a way to calm down the fans, because the fans got all on board with A.J. Brown, and then he left after being lowballed and insulted by them. And then you were the first seat in the AFC last year, and that was without Derrick Henry for the majority of the year, and then you lose right away in the playoffs. Like, that was a huge deal. I think they've been waiting and biding their time, and I think they wanted to get a jump on it and not start the new year with that GM over their heads, because they're still like, well, we're going to make the playoffs no matter what, because no one in this division is going to come steal the division from us. So it's best to make a move now and then move forward after that.
They better, because Jacksonville has some young talent and they have some draft capital to help build up that defense. So, I mean,
They also have Chimbaki, and Chimbaki
if
sucks.
if they want to stay in purgatory, that's fine. But Jacksonville will catch them, within the next couple of years. But yeah, no, I thought the Eagles were going to lose this game, but Titans aren't a terrible team. Obviously, they're not like a bottom tier team. They're not any kind of Super Bowl contender, but the Eagles handled their business. Jalen Hurts silenced a lot of people too. There have been, some people questioning about the Eagles' ability to throw the football, and they did it relentlessly on Sunday. So,
and I think another part of that was that they got out to that lead, and then that takes Tennessee out of their game.
yeah,
When Tennessee's got to throw the ball, they're not the same team.
no. And then you lose Treylon Burks, who's easily your best, wide out.
Yep, that took a
Wasn't
big part
this
of that away
also
too.
the first game with Jordan Davis back?
Yeah, he played like 25% of the snaps. He was super limited.
I think my Pittsburgh Eagles was whenever I did my schedule. I had the Eagles at 9-8.
I actually had them at 10-7. I said that they were going to be a hair better than they were last year.
I think I had them in that neighborhood too.
They've surprised me. To me, it all came down to Hurts. Could he make the improvements that he needed to make? And so far, he's made them.
Yeah, he has.
I thought at worst you'd be 13-3 this year, simply because I did not believe in anybody else in your division. I didn't believe in Carson Wentz. I didn't believe in CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys, and I definitely did not believe in the Giants, who probably shocked me the most with the least amount of talent. But I'm not shocked that the Eagles are doing well.
See, I always believe in Dallas to have a good regular season and Mike McCarthy to have a good regular season and then gack it up when they get to the playoffs like they have for however many years it has been.
And I'll tell you what,
27 years.
If they're on track to have Tampa coming to Dallas, that's a team that they have not beaten in the last couple of years. So, and if it comes to Tom Brady in the playoffs, nobody's going to be in a hurry to go bet on the Cowboys.
Yep.
So I'll ask you guys a question because obviously I'm a local and follow it. Do you think Jalen Hurts is the MVP frontrunner?
I said he was. I said he was to you a long time ago.
Yeah.
Two things though.
I don't even know how long ago that was, Ryan. But I mean, we talked.
That was pretty early in the season. You said that.
And it might even been before the season. Like, I thought it was a pre-MVP talk.
Two
And
things
you
about
kind of
that
shrugged
though.
it off a little bit. Granted, it's your team, and you don't want to hype them all up and everything else, and maybe that's why you did it. But I do remember saying I think he is definitely a candidate for the MVP.
Okay,
And
so
I still stick to that saying.
I have two things about that though. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it always feels like whoever wins MVP of the league, right, doesn't usually do well in the playoffs and definitely doesn't even go near the Super Bowl. So would you really want him to be MVP? And two, I feel like Patrick Mahomes is going to be handed MVP simply because they just want to keep selling this story that he doesn't need Tyreek Hill to do well, and they want to give them something because I think this might be the first year where Kansas City doesn't have the bye in a while.
To answer your first question, no, that doesn't really matter to me. Patrick Mahomes won MVP and went to a Super Bowl. Ultimately, they got crushed, but that's because Tampa was just the better team. And Tom Brady, I think, won one of his MVPs the year they won the Super Bowl. So I'm not big into trends like that, so to speak. Maybe if I'm Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, I look into that. But
Thanks.
Yeah.
I ain't touch that.
The second piece to that is I just don't think Jalen Hurts is the MVP. Like I've watched Gardner Minshew play and I've watched the Eagles play all year. I can very confidently say that this team would probably be 8-4 if Gardner Minshew was the starting quarterback. If you look at the Eagles as a team, they have one of the best O-lines in the NFL, which translates to one of the best running games. They have arguably one of the best wide receiver duos. Before he got hurt, Dallas Goedert's a top 5 tight end in the NFL. They just have so many weapons on offense. Like you could put almost any quarterback in there and he would succeed. So to me,
I told you that, Adam. I told you Goddard was up in the top tight ends last week.
I'm old school. I think MVP should be most valuable player, not which quarterback has the best stats award.
Mhm.
And the Eagles would be 8-4 at worst, 7-5 with Gardner Minshew at quarterback.
Would
I just
Miles
think that,
Sanders qualify for a comeback player of the year?
no.
Because he was dead
I,
last year.
I'm not a Miles Sanders guy, truthfully. He's going to be one of the free agent running backs this offseason. We'll see what the Eagles do, but
Definitely come alive this year, though.
yeah, for sure. Funny enough, Josh Jacobs is having his most efficient year too, and it
Contract
lines up
year,
with the
baby.
fact that these dudes need to get paid.
always-
Hmm.
Same thing with Saquon. He actually looked like a decent player until his Saquon is caught up with him.
Now, in Miles Sanders' defense, this is his first real healthy year in the NFL, and in Josh Jacobs' defense, he's in a Josh McDaniel system, which is always very friendly for running backs, but can't really ignore the fact that these dudes came out of the blue on their contract year, especially Jacobs after getting denied that
Ooh.
5th-year option. Like,
Thank you. You just made me think of something. Do you think that Brian Robinson could be technically comeback player of the year? Because he was shot and then had to come back, and he's been like taking off ever since he got to start again. And it's weird, but it feels like that would be kind of the story they would push to try to take away from all the other hot
They're
mess
trying,
that is the
with how much they're
Commanders.
feeding him the rock, it seems like they're setting it up that way too.
I mean, Brian Robinson's not bad. He was talented at Alabama. He was actually a sneaky good pass catcher too. They just have Antonio Gibson, so they don't utilize him that way. But
No, I meant because the Commanders, it's a hot mess story with Dan Snyder and the emails coming back up again and people
That
ripping them for not
horrible
actually
Sean
investing in
Taylor
the Sean
statue.
Taylor statue and all the negative press that's been there with the Carson Wentz of it all and everything. Like, and Chase Young still hasn't played. Like, in my mind, if there's gonna be some weird cosmetic cover-up story, it'd probably be Brian Robinson getting comeback player of the year, simply because that's a story that people can root for and not like have something sour to say about it.
I don't know what the actual guidelines are for that award, so I can't really answer that. But I mean, if it qualifies,
Tannehill won it in 2019 over people who had ACL tears and everything else, simply because he went from Miami, where he was a nothing, to being in the playoffs with the Titans. So I mean,
well, I
it's not
think
always an injury thing.
I just meant in the sense that I don't know if Brian Robinson had to be in the league last year or something like that, because obviously he's a rookie.
Yeah.
He's not.
I don't know if he
Yeah,
can
I don't
know if he can be a
Mark,
comeback
you know
player
anything
when
about
it's in
this?
one season. Yeah, I don't know if you can come back within one season and be the comeback player of the year, especially when you're a rookie and you weren't in the league the year before.
Yeah,
So that would be tough.
Yeah, I just don't know the guidelines for the award.
Yeah, I don't either.
Y'all remember when
Anything
Sean
else?
Taylor laid out that punter in the Pro Bowl? They went for a fake punt on 4th and 4, and he
Yes.
destroyed the AFC punter.
Brian Moorman,
Yeah,
the Buffalo
man.
Bills, lit him up.
Oh, Sean
Real hit in the
Taylor.
Pro Bowl. And then they give him a clothes hanger statue.
That's pathetic. That's
So-
what you'd expect from that franchise.
So, Mark, I gotta ask you, since you're not biased at all, which Pennsylvania team were you more shocked lost their undefeated streak to the Commanders? The Steelers or the Eagles?
Oh, the Eagles, definitely.
Okay.
I actually disagree with that. I think because the Commanders are a divisional opponent, and their divisional games always play a little bit weirder. I'm more shocked the
Yeah.
Steelers lost.
It's just the way that the Eagles were playing going into that. They looked like they were really good and they were on a roll, and that was not the game I expected them to lose.
I don't know. I kind of been feeling that loss was coming for a few weeks, when you guys struggled against the Lions before they got it heated up, and there were a few other games where it got really nail bitey for the Eagles to the last second for you guys to pull off the win. I
Talking
think
about
you
the
guys,
Eagles?
yeah, I think you guys kind of need to have that shoe drop and then be able to move past it. Like,
It was a necessary
as
loss. It was
yeah,
necessary.
Yeah. Adam, I'm going to have to jump off of here too.
All right, Mark, take it easy, man. Thank you for stopping
All
in.
right. Hey, you bet. Anytime. Well,
All
you know how
righty,
it goes.
buddy. I know. When the
You can
wife's
hit me
out, you
on-
can come on.
No, that's not it. It's just when we got stuff going on, you know how that works. I got 4
I know you got
grandkids
your
and 2 more on
grandkids,
the
you got
way.
Christmas coming up.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, I love being here. I enjoy being on and just talking sports with different people.
Maybe next
and-
time you can be in your Packer room and Melissa could see it all.
Oh, yeah.
no,
Hey,
no,
There's
no,
even-
Mar-
no,
and Melissa, it's pretty-
no,
it's pretty
no,
astonishing.
No,
It's
no,
pretty
no.
astonishing.
I
We've
saw
even
it.
added
He
a
was
jukebox
on that
down there.
show when you guys did the preseason thing with the the Packers and the Niners this offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you.
But we added a jukebox since the last time you saw it, Adam.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So it's gotten even cooler, but I digress.
All right. Well, let's check it out next time, Mark. Next time. Hey, if we don't talk again before the break, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to y'all
Merry
and Happy New Year
Christmas.
to you.
Take it easy, Mark.
Good to see everybody.
All right, guys. We got 5 games left. We can do this. Ryan, you good for the 5 games?
Should be.
All right.
My laptop will give out before I will. So you know me. I'm
Always
here,
does.
I'm here for the long haul. It's about my laptop.
Well, we're going to go into the next game, which I'm going to talk about it, but here we go. Melissa, you finally get to talk.
Yeah.
How did that? No, Ryan just disappears. All right. Oh.
We beat them. We beat him. You cannot take that away. I don't care what anyone says. You can all say that he had a bad game, that he had errant throws. My defense finally got their streak over with, so we don't have to have that stupid noose around our neck anymore. And they completely owned the offense of the freaking Dolphins. And that's after everyone telling me Raheem Mostert was going to embarrass us after he talked trash. That was after everyone saying that Tyreek Hill was going to run all over us. We were going to get 2
Tyreek Hill had a
cheap
good game.
defeats all year. And Drake Greenlaw on the sideline punching out the ball from Mike Gesicki, and you had the 3 interceptions, the forced fumble for a touchdown. It's just, I love this game. I love this game, and the very fact that I didn't have to see 10 all game even made it sweeter for me. I cannot stand the Garoppolo. I can't stand him, and he is finally not like this big liability that's around the Niners' neck, holding back this team. And I loved every part of this game.
Well, Jimmy might be coming back.
Don't. Why bring him back? Please tell me. Because the NFC Championship game where they embarrassed the Packers, he barely had 8 throws. And even in those 8 throws, he was not good. Like, wait, and did you realize who leaked the story? It wasn't the Niners that leaked the story to Adam Schefter. It was Don Yee calling Adam Schefter, being like, "Oh, my client's really not out for the year the way that they're talking about him." So that's all Don Yee's done for the last 2 years is make a nuisance of himself because he wants to trump the Niners and embarrass the Niners in the press. It's just, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry. You don't have to believe in Purdy. You don't have to believe in a rookie can win the Super Bowl. You don't have to believe in a rookie can lead their team to the playoffs and do well. Like, none of it. But Jimmy Garoppolo is not the reason why the Niners win. And Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely not the reason why they win in the playoffs.
Sean King. Tony Dungy tweeted it and said, we did really good whenever our 2 top tier quarterbacks got hurt, and the third
They
one
got
came
to the
in
championship
and Sean
game. I
King
mean,
in
they didn't.
99.
year. They didn't show up in the championship game, but they got to the championship game, and it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. This defense is really good. I thoroughly enjoy watching it. I love Drake Greenlaw being respected now by the league. I love seeing Jawan Jennings get some respect from the fans finally. It's such joy to finally see that Big Ten Anvil stop being a nuisance to my team.
Ryan.
So I've said for some weeks now, since on BSing Sports, I don't know if I said it the other week when we were on, but since the 49ers acquired Christian McCaffrey, they were the biggest threat to the Eagles in the NFC. Like they have the most dynamic playmakers. They have a better defense than Dallas. I firmly believe that. And you don't have to preach to an Eagles fan about losing your starting quarterback and then still being a championship caliber team, because if any fan base knows that, it's an Eagles fan.
Nick Foles.
Yep, sure do.
But the difference is that Nick Foles was a starter before, and he was a starter for the Eagles before, and
the good news about, well, hold up, let me get into my piece. The good news about the 49ers is this: Brock Purdy's coming into a better situation than what Nick Foles was coming into, and I say that because the way that San Fran's offense is designed is to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands into the playmaker's hands. You have Kittle second in yards after catch over tight ends over the last 3 years. Debo second in yards after catch for wide receivers over the last 3 years. Christian McCaffrey second in yards after catch for running backs in the last 3 years. They have dynamic playmakers where Purdy's job and Garoppolo's job was to just get him the ball. You know, Ayuk ran your intermediate routes. That's fine. He's been fantastic all year. And then Jawan Jennings had the speed to take top off the defense. But Purdy doesn't have to do a whole lot. It's not like you're asking Purdy to fill in for Josh Allen. You're asking Purdy to fill in for a distributor. Just make the right decisions. Like, we're going to scheme these guys open. We're going to run the ball a ton. I mean, Christian McCaffrey got the ball a ton on Sunday, as he deserves it. He's getting $16 million. He better get the ball. But Purdy's coming into a great situation. The big difference for me is the Niners are still definitely a threat to the Eagles. I still think that they are a Super Bowl contender on the NFC side. I'm just flip-flopping them and Dallas for now until I see consistent Brock Purdy, until I see like, hey, okay, he can operate this offense that has these elite playmakers. But I could very well still put the 49ers as the second best team in the NFC, obviously behind the 11-1 Eagles. But I don't think that this is a big loss for the 49ers at all. You know, people making a big deal out of it. We've seen our backup just fine.
Which is all fair and good and all, but I have to ask you the most important question. Since I have maybe a slightly biased fan here, but I'm going to ask you anyway because you probably have seen both. Do you think it's fair that the media is hyping Micah Parsons over Nick Bosa for Defensive Player of the Year?
No. I think from a talent perspective, I think Nick Bosa it's a weird situation because they play a very different position. Micah Parsons plays an outside linebacker in a 3-4, and Nick Bosa is a true defensive end in a 4-3. So they play a bit of a different position. I say Nick Bosa is a better D end than Micah Parsons is outside linebacker. Like, I think Nick Bosa is probably the best pass rushing D end in the league, whereas TJ Watt's a better outside linebacker than Micah Parsons is. In my opinion. Now, from a defensive player of the league standpoint, Dallas relies a lot more on Micah Parsons to be good than the 49ers do Nick Bosa. So that's the only drawback to that, is Micah Parsons means more to the Dallas defense, whereas San Fran's defense would be better without Bosa than Dallas's defense would be without Parsons. That's the only drawback. But from a pure talent standpoint, based on their positions, I would probably take Nick Bosa. I think it's a little harder to find a pass rusher like Nick Bosa from a defensive end standpoint than an outside linebacker.
Okay.
What about TJ Watt?
That's what I'm saying. I think TJ Watt's a better pass rusher than Micah Parsons.
Okay, and then I gotta ask you, do you actually consider these quote-unquote Micah Parsons' touchdowns or turnovers as a stat for the reason why he deserves Defensive Player of the Year.
I mean,
Because
forced
I
fumble.
saw him play the Eagles, and he was shut down against the Eagles. Like,
Well,
if I
the
didn't know
Eagles,
that 11 was on the field, I wouldn't have thought he played that game. Like, he was
not
a
to brag,
non-factor.
I got into a discussion. It wasn't a debate. It was friendly about the Eagles right tackle Lane Johnson versus the Niners left tackle Trent Williams, and who means more to their team because somebody said that Lane Johnson was the best tackle in football, and he said Trent Williams by a mile. And I was like, hold up now, brother. Like, Lane Johnson's the only tackle in football that hasn't allowed a sack in the last 2 years. So, but yeah, no, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, they're always going to disappear against the Eagles because Lane Johnson's just like that. I mean, that's just who he is.
And
Unfortunately,
I also
34 years old.
think it's unfair to compare the two because I don't know if you've noticed this because I noticed this because I'm a Niner fan, but I've never seen a player from their rookie year on be chipped and choke held the way that Nick Bosa is literally the guy's elbow is around his neck and he's bringing him around like a rag doll, trying to stop him from getting to his quarterback. Like, I've never seen someone, especially in this league that's supposed to be all player safety above the shoulders, week in and week out, play after play out, like constant arms around his neck to stop him because there's no other way to stop him with his multifaceted ways of getting around the offensive lineman. And it baffles me because he has 14 and a half sacks right now, which is almost the number he had last year, which was 15 and a half. And that's not including the postseason. And it just, I don't understand the way that most people just want to bypass Nick Bosa, but like he's not worthy of getting a vote. I mean, he didn't get a single vote last year. And he had a great year last year coming off that ACL tear at MetLife. Like,
I think his kryptonite's always going to be is that he plays on a better defensive unit than a lot of these other guys. I mean, the Steelers, even with T.J. Watt, you know, they already kind of struggle on the defensive side. So if you take T.J. Watt out, they're a nightmare. If you remove Michael Parsons from Dallas, they're not going to be a good defensive unit. So I think just the way that the grand scheme of things, like the way you look at it is, as talented and as good as Nick Bosa is, like I said, probably the best pure pass rushing defensive end in the NFL.
yeah.
The 49ers would be better off
player of
without
the
him
week
than
this
any
week
of the
as
other.
well.
If you took Max Crosby off the Raiders, I mean, they're already like.
Please don't mention
god-awful.
Max Crosby. I will never understand how that guy was all pro over him last year.
Nick Bosa did get named NFL Player of the Week this week. Defensive player.
And he was a NFC Player of the Month last month. And he got 3 sacks in this and a forced fumble. My other question to you is, what do you think of? I'm just trying to think of how to phrase this. Okay. What do you think of Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner? And
dude, I love Fred Warner. I love watching Fred Warner fly all over the field. He's one of my favorite. I guess between, you know, I have this like weird thing where like I loved Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis, so I always follow the 49ers, you know, linebackers. Yeah, I like Fred Warner. Like I know Greenlaw's a good linebacker. He's not talked about a whole lot over. Obviously, being in the NFC East, all I fucking hear about is Micah Parsons, so it gets old real fast. But I like Greenlaw, but I really love Fred Warner, man. He's such a good linebacker. I don't know what's in the water out there in San Francisco, but they got some good middle linebackers.
They've had them like every year.
It also doesn't hurt that they have D'Amico Ryans, who's a former linebacker, being their defensive coordinator, and he was their linebacker coach before that.
He's linebacker for the Eagles too.
Yep. So I have a question then for you, as a non-partial, objective person. Do you think that it's fair that Tua is getting a slide for having an off game against the Niners, and they're saying like it's not a big deal?
Might Tua get comeback player of the year?
Like I said, I don't. I mean, I think that the Niners did an effective job with their 5-man with their blitz packages, rushing 5 men and stunting the guys in the middle. I think that it really kind of exposed a hole to the Dolphins in their offensive schemes. Excuse me. I mean, obviously they have 2 of the best yards after catch guys, but they do like to do the 7-step drop and throw it deep a lot. So I think the 49ers kind of exposed them a little bit. But I would say just based on the way Tua's played this year, I wouldn't give him a pass per se, but it's kind of like you look at it like if there was any game that he could have a bad game, it's against a good defense like the 49ers. So I wouldn't say it's a pass, but I think it's more of like okay, now Tua, what are you going to do against the next good defense you face, Because you didn't play fantastic against Buffalo either. So
Now, I gotta ask you, do you think that he's sort of getting a pass because people are still kind of holding him with kid gloves ever since he got 2 concussions in 4 days?
I think some people are definitely showing sympathy to that. I think there's also some people that want him to win NFL MVP. And there's an argument for it. I mean, truthfully, the Dolphins lost every game he didn't start, and now, they're a playoff team who ultimately did beat Buffalo when he was in the lineup. So there's some consideration there, but I think that it's more so that diehard like Tua for MVP crowd. And then there's this salty group of people that are like Tua's better than Justin Herbert, when in a vacuum, that's not true at all. Tua's just in a much better situation. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Justin Herbert's got some weapons too.
yeah, how many? What have they played?
Now with
2.5
Keenan Allen
games
looking
together?
like he's back on all cylinders. Joshua Palmer, who is that? Carter.
Carter and Palmer is a developer, but Carter is hardly what I would consider a weapon.
Mike Williams has also missed some time.
Mike Williams
Still
and Keenan
missing
Allen
time.
have played 1 game together this year.
And Keenan Allen's been dynamite every game he's played on so far.
Not the first game he played in week 1, and then the first game coming back from injury, he only played like 30% of the snaps in each game.
I don't actively root for anyone to lose their job, but in the Chargers case, I am actively rooting for Brandon Staley to get fired.
We talked about on the show. I think Brandon Staley's field is fate.
Stand his obsession with analytics and the weird positions he puts his team in.
Yeah, I loved Justin Herbert when he was at Oregon. I followed him since his sophomore year when he became a 3-time All-American. They're just not utilizing him, correctly. Like first off, I mean, Justin Herbert's a big arm. They don't have a great offensive line. Their injuries on the wide receiver side. I mean, Mike Williams hasn't played a full season since Herbert's been in the league. Austin Eckler has been healthy this year, but he missed 6 games, I think, last year. I think Staley sealed his fate losing this game. The Chargers could win 5 straight and end up in the playoffs, but I think this consistently losing to Vegas, who was definitely the inferior team, is just not going to cut it. It is not going to cut it.
Lost to Vegas.
Yeah, see, it's just a poor. Justin Herbert's a very good runner. Like, I don't think people realize he ran for 3 touchdowns in the Senior Bowl in college. Like, the fact that they don't roll him out more and get him out of the pocket is mind-blowing.
Now, do you think that the Chargers are going to end up blowing up their defense because J.C. Jackson hasn't done anything since they traded for him? Joey Bosa can't stay healthy to save his life. Derwin James can barely stay healthy for his own life. It feels like Khalil Mack is trying to do the job of like 11 guys plus all by himself, and he really can't do it by himself.
Yeah, no, I think they do. I think they got to blow a lot of it up too. Like they're going to very well end up like the Titans in a way. Obviously, not finishing first in the division. As long as Andy Reid is in Kansas City, I will confidently vote for them every year. But they're going to end up in this purgatory where they end up like this 500 team. They don't end up with a great draft pick. But they're not, good enough to be that next level. I think it starts with getting a new head coach. I would love to see Sean Payton. I would love to see Brian Flores in LA next year coaching the Chargers.
What's happening? Platform 246. Don't know that one. Melissa, you know that one?
Nope.
Yeah, no, the run defense is terrible. The pass defense, like you said, J.C. Jackson, just awful. He was benched at some point this year. 5 years, $80 million down the drain.
No, he got injured.
No, he was benched. He got benched in the second half of a game at some point. He might be hurt now, but I remember it being like a big thing that he was benched in like week 4. It wasn't even like
Maybe.
week.
But yeah, it's just I want the Chargers to do well. To me, they seem like the Lions of the AFC, where you want to see them do well, but they never really.
Welcome to the. Hold on, Melissa. Hold on. Well, welcome to the. Thank you for subscribing. This platform. Mr. Platform. Not sure. New ones.
Welcome
Always
platform.
welcome.
But yeah, like I feel like they're the Lions of the AFC, where you can't help but root for them, but there's just something that's always holding the Chargers back.
And it sucks because Justin Herbert's going to eventually end up with this narrative that he can't elevate his team, that he can't win games, because as I've said on my show a million times, and as I've said everywhere else a million times, quarterbacks get way too much credit and way too much blame. And I will die on the hill that it is definitely not the most important position in sports, and even the slightest imagination possible. But
I also think it's going to hurt him that he's in a division, or at least in a conference with Joe Burrow, and the Bengals have been a hot mess for a very long time. And the very fact that the Bengals got to the Super Bowl and look like they're going to steal the North again, and they're beating the Chiefs 3 in a row, and just I think it's really going to do a disservice to Justin Herbert as a quarterback.
yeah, and now Tua, the Dolphins have turned it around too. And a lot of people were saying for a long time that the Dolphins screwed up picking Tua, the pick before Justin Herbert. But winning cures everything, I guess, and it makes the people a little delirious sometimes. But if I had to start a franchise, me personally, I think it's a personal thing. I'd probably take Herbert over Burrow. But I mean, really, you could just flip a coin and take whichever one you wanted. They're both very good quarterbacks. I'd take both of them over Tua.
Now I had a question.
That's an interesting topic there, Mr. Ryan.
It's a topic of discussion next week on our show.
I don't have a lot of love for Darren Waller. I don't have a lot of love for Max Crosby, but I always felt that Dallas Goedert was a better tight end to me than Darren Waller, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that subject.
As non-biased as I can, that's 100% correct. Like, looking at it through as clear of a lens as I can, Dallas Goedert is underrated because he was overshadowed by Zach Ertz for the first couple years of his career. He was always the second tight end on the Eagles. And last year was kind of like his slow coming out party where they traded Ertz at the deadline. They moved on from him. And then Goedert got a second half of the season to himself, kind of did well. But this year he was on another planet. I think he's a better blocker than Waller. I think he's a better pass catcher than Waller. We've seen Waller have some nasty drops in his career. I mean, he dropped 3 touchdowns in his last healthy game or something like that. I think, and Goddard's 3 years younger than him. I'd so much rather have Goddard than Waller.
He's also more consistent, and it feels like Dallas Goedert, and no offense to Zach Ertz, because I don't know if you're a fan of him still or not, but it felt like
Actually, it should be.
With Dallas Goedert on your offense healthy, it always felt like no matter how many injuries you guys had, you always had a chance to win. There's just something about him that the team rallied behind, The running backs would run a little harder. People would try to catch balls a little harder. The quarterbacks would try not to hero ball a little harder. There's something about Dallas Goedert that doesn't go pop for a lot of people, that I feel like he's just one of those people. When he's out there, he might not have the flashy plays that other people have, but there's just something about him that makes the Eagles come alive on offense.
I love Zach Ertz. I love what he did for his time here in Philadelphia. He's the best tight end in the Eagles' history. He was just sure-handed as they come, but we had a nickname for Mr. Zach Ertz in Philadelphia. It was called No Yak Zach, because the flap of a butterfly's wing could knock this dude over. And the only time in his entire career in Philadelphia I ever saw him fight for extra yards was the touchdown he scored in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. Other than that, you could just like look at this guy the wrong way. He would catch the ball. I mean, he was as sure-handed as they came.
He was a machine,
obviously.
dude.
He had the tight end record for catches in a season for like 5 minutes, but it just no yak Zach, man. That says it all. That's what we called him.
But if you needed sure hands, that was it.
Yeah, Goddard's a little bit better of a blocker. He's not as route running savvy as Ertz was, but Ertz also has some time under his belt. So I'll give Goddard a couple years. Goddard's much better after the catch. He's dynamic with the football in his hands as far as tight ends go.
So for me, because I really love tight ends, it's George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, and David Njoku have been like my top tight ends for the league for the last couple of years. And everyone keeps telling me that I should put Darren Waller on that list, or Bobby Tunyon and Mike Gesicki and all these other guys. And it just, I've seen that highs, but they disappear when like you really need something on offense to click. And there's just something that doesn't connect with me with those other players the way that those in particular do. And it's just, for me personally, I would put Dallas Goedert usually in my top 5 tight ends in the league.
I think from a talent perspective, I agree with that list. For the most part, I think Njoku's a little shaky there at number 5. I do like Njoku just purely from a talent perspective, but he can't stay on the field. He's always
no. Well, that's my point. Like, I think if Bobby Tunyon was a little bit more healthy, I'd put him above David Njoku, but I mean, Robert Tunyon's had like maybe one healthy year at best.
I personally do like Gesicki. I think he's in an offense that completely disrespects his skill set.
Which is why he wanted to be traded this year.
You know what? I thought for sure Tampa was going to go knocking down the door for Mike Gesicki at the trade deadline. I was like, Tom Brady needs a tight end. And the Dolphins just don't want to use Mike Gesicki, who I think is a very talented tight end. I would probably put Gesicki ahead.
I don't know why they don't use him.
Because there's Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and he can't keep up with them.
Mike McDaniel wants to prove that he's not Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan loves tight ends, and he wants to prove that he can do it, and he's the mastermind behind all the speedster stuff and all the other nonsense that he's doing down there. Like, I'm sorry, but Mike McDaniels is probably one of the most overrated coaches, because all he does with his defense is blitz them, and then he expects his speedsters to pick up off his offense. And I think Miami's overrated, personally.
As a George Kittle owner in multiple fantasy leagues, it frustrates the fuck out of me that Kyle Shanahan loves using his tight ends as blockers, but you can't deny it. Kittle blocks like a tackle.
I love Kittle, but you should never have him in fantasy.
He
doesn't get used consistently enough.
He's still dynamic enough in a position that is just, dead after Travis Kelce that he's usable on a weekly basis. But I disagree. I do think that the Dolphins have some legitimacy to them. If they played Buffalo again, would I bet on them? No, but I think at this point that they do have to be established as like kind of a fringe Super Bowl contender. They're probably working themselves out of that tier, though. I would have firmly said they were a Super Bowl contender a few weeks ago, but they're just not playing well for me. So
I think there's only 3 true teams that are up for the Super Bowl in the AFC right now. I think it's the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Bengals.
I would probably agree with that list.
So
Yeah,
moving,
asking me today, I'd agree with that list.
so looking at the next matchup, unless you just mentioned those 2 teams, and they played each other.
We just somehow keep like rolling our irrelevant conversations into the next games.
Well, I mean, we're just talking about it, and Kelsey was on the table and just said the Bengals and Kansas City. Is this a possible another rematch for the AFC Championship game?
I would love that.
Kansas City's a slip up away from being the 3 seed, so they need to be careful. Fortunately for them, the Bengals have a pretty tough road the rest of the season, but
I love it. Who Day is coming, and Who Day is going to start kicking sorry ass, and I cannot wait. This offensive line is finally playing well. Joe Mixon, if he's not back already, he is going to be back healthy soon.
he'll be back this week.
Jamar Chase is back. Higgins and Boyd are playing well. DJ Reader is kicking all kinds of ass on that defense.
Is Joe Mixon back?
He'll be back this week.
I love Who Day, and I love that they've been kicking the Chiefs' ass. And it's just, did you guys see Patrick Mahomes throw his hissy fit on the sideline? They literally zoomed over to him on the sideline, and he took his helmet and he started bashing the bench and everything else, and he had to have his helmet taken away from him like he was a 4-year-old. And I loved it.
Well, I mean, in the heat of the battle, people get pissed.
Yeah, I don't really look at, one time or even a couple time offenders like that. Like dudes like Tom Brady who are doing it every game. It looks a little suspect, but I mean, Tom Brady's probably the only person on the planet that could do it every game at this point, and we'd be okay with it because nobody has the pedigree that he has. But like if you're going like Antonio Brown and just being like excessive like every other week with this crybaby shit, like that's kind of where I'm like, okay, like you're not in the heat of the battle.
You mean like
You're just a
Cam
crybaby.
Newton and a towel? Every time that things were bad, he have a towel over his head and he hide his face from the cameras and he'd be pouting on the sidelines.
This is part of the issue, like in sports society, right? Like, if you're not like an outward dude with a great person, if you're not Joe Burrow, like people are gonna find reasons to hate you. Like people find reasons to love Joe Burrow. I'm not saying anybody should hate him, but because he's Joe Cool, he had the cigar when they.
Please
when
don't call
LSU
him Joe
wanted to-
Cool.
Like,
You're
like
talking
he
to a
has-
Niners fan. Like any other week, you can say that. Just but the Niners fan, can we not call him Joe Cool?
But he is like that's why people love him. Like people loved him before he was even in the NFL, and like he's a good quarterback, but people love him because of his personality. If you're like
Dry snitch Beckham. That was his introduction to the NFL.
if you are like Cam Newton,
He dry snitched Beckham for paying them money after the LSU championship game. That's
Yeah,
how I got introduced to Joe Burrow.
but like if you're Cam Newton where you're real exotic but you don't play well, then people look at you funny. If you're Tom Brady and your offense isn't doing well and you're yelling at people on the sideline, people blame him for that. And quarterbacks like have to have a personality. Like you can't be to yourself and be a quarterback in the NFL because you'll just get absolutely destroyed for it. So to me, there's like some societal flaw in the fact that we forget that these people are human and have emotions, or they just like being themselves. Like there's this weird standard with quarterbacks in sports, and like to me, I'm genuinely like against it. Like I really hate the standard that sports society has set for quarterbacks.
I also don't think that it's helped that you have an entire segment called "Come On Man" on ESPN, and they they troll the sidelines and have sideline cameras specifically to get somebody who gets emotional, to give them something to talk about as a storyline.
Yeah.
Like, I don't agree with what he did last year, but it felt like the reason why that whole Dak Prescott press conference, well, good on them then thing, when he said it was good on the fans for throwing stuff at the refs, only blew up because it was Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, and he had never done anything like that before, so it became a huge national story. And I feel like they'll give you a pass while you're winning, but if you're losing, and especially if you're like losing on a streak, the way the Chiefs are doing against the Bengals, who a lot of people have as an inferior team, I think that they purposely look for stuff like that, especially with this whole, is Tyreek missing Patrick Moore, or is Patrick missing Tyreek Moore storyline that they've been like pushing all year long, the way they did when Brady and Belichick broke up the first time. Like, it feels like these are the things that they keep purposely trolling for, waiting
Yeah, like,
for.
the answer is, I'm sure they miss each other, but nobody really cares. They're in a new situation. It's time to move on. If anything, I would say Tyreek, because he keeps making those snide remarks about how Tua's better than Patty, but Patty doesn't clap back or anything. So I would say Tyreek misses Pat more, and I think that that's probably the correct answer. But
Yeah.
Quarterbacks in sports society are just held to like this really odd standard. Like, we just forgot that they're human beings. And how can you give all the credit or all the blame to somebody that is one of 11 guys that's only on the field for 50% of the game? That, like, where did we just forget how to do math? So he has what,
I think it's a lot to
5.5% of the
do with
responsibility.
fantasy, and everyone always saying quarterback is the hardest thing to nail down, and that's usually the deciding factor if you're taking legitimate by the mass people for Super Bowl contention. If you have a quarterback, and you can't win in today's game unless you have a decent quarterback, or
There have been
push
some
comes to shove
seriously
quarterback.
bump quarterbacks to win Super Bowls in NFL history,
Trent
though. So,
Dilfer.
like,
I'm
mean,
not
Brad
I'm not
Johnson won a
disagreeing with
Super
you,
Bowl.
but
Brad Johnson when he played for the Bucks. Huh?
it feels like they're trying to force this narrative. Like, if you don't have an elite quarterback, you can't do anything. And I think as long as you have someone who doesn't turn the ball over and can make a few plays when he needs to, he can run
I think a lot of that
to the
has to
Super
do
Bowl
with the
and
analytics
win.
standpoint
Because I mean,
and shit to talk about on TV. Because
as an Eagles fan,
wait.
I mean,
who would you rather talk about, Melissa? Trent Dilfer or Patty Mahomes?
I don't really care what they talk about, because quite
No, I'm just
honestly,
saying, like,
they make up
I'm
shit.
just saying,
But
like, from a host standpoint, from an announcer standpoint, you'd rather talk about Patty Mahomes than Trent Dilfer.
I mean, I
Correct.
think we established that I'm backwards, because I prefer defense over offense, but that's neither here nor there. But I feel like when Nick Foles won the Super Bowl for you guys mostly ran a phenomenal defense and a really good, solid run game, and you leaned on your weapons. And I feel like that was 5 years ago, and that I think that it still can work in today's NFL. It feels like everybody else in the league doesn't want to see that anymore.
Well, I think part of the issue is, right, and not to blame one particular or two particular people, but when you have a Josh Allen come out of college and grow the way that he has, because people forget Josh Allen was not always the Josh Allen we look at him as, where he's a dynamic two-way threat. You look at Patrick Mahomes, who doesn't run past the line of scrimmages often, but can make plays with his legs outside the pocket. And these just dynamic guys with big arms and can push the ball down the field. You start looking at your quarterback as, you know, the Tennessee Titans, as the Las Vegas Raiders, where Derek Carr is a good enough quarterback, or Ryan Tannehill or Kirk Cousins. They're all good enough quarterbacks. They're just the result of not every single quarterback you pick out of college is going to be Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. And teams are going to have to start living with that. They're going to have to build around their team in other ways, because if you keep burning draft picks on quarterbacks that don't end up like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, then you're wasting time. You're just going to be stuck in the cellar forever. And then the flip side to that is paying these quarterbacks $50 million a year. Patrick Mahomes just lost his number one outside weapon because he refused to restructure his contract, so they had to move him because they gave their quarterback $50 million. Now, until the salary cap goes up enough to justify, you know, paying some other dudes on the team as well as your quarterback 1/5 of the salary cap, then teams are going to be having a lot of problems. So there's just, I mean, to me, if I could have it my way, like there's talk about Jalen Hurts getting $45 million, like I would seriously pump the brakes on that. I'm like, this is a bit of an issue here, especially when you look at the contracts coming due that offseason for the Eagles. So it's like, do you want to lose your team? Because ever since Patrick Mahomes signed that $50 million deal, they haven't won a Super Bowl. They've always come up short, whether it was the offensive line had problems because they didn't have the money to get the depth. Now they lost Tyreek Hill. People are asking questions about that. And they are like I said, they're one slip up away from not even being the top 2 seed in the AFC anymore. So
Yeah.
Bengals got that same problem coming up on their hands right here. You're going to pay T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. Good luck.
No, but I also think that it hurts your team in specific, because not only is Jalen Hurts another quarterback that people have fallen in love with, but it doesn't help that you have Dak Prescott in the same division and he's making $40 million a year. And
yeah, another one where they had to force move a wide receiver because
just,
they overpaid their quarterback.
It just feels like this is going to be the new thing. Either you're going to have the quarterback or you're going to have the receiver, because now the receivers are making like $20 million a year now because of Christian Kirk. So
yeah, and like I said, until the salary cap grows to where you can fit all these contracts in there, you're going to have to pick and choose. Like, as a Bengals fan, it's going to be tough to hear this, but like, it should be a very realistic possibility that T. Higgins is not a Bengal after his rookie contract. Like, you've got Jamar Chase to pay. You've got Joe Burrow to pay. They're getting their money first. You've got to protect Joe Burrow. You look at the Eagles. I am very much prepared for Devontae Smith to not be an Eagle after his rookie contract, because I understand the way the business works. Am I going to miss him? Yes. Does he provide valuable asset? Sure. But they're not going to be able to pay him. It's just not going to happen. They already paid A.J. Brown. If you want to give Jalen Hurts $45 million a year, where are you getting this money from? We going to let our offensive line walk? Like, that's just not how this works. So,
yeah. So what did you guys think of this game, the Bengals and the Chiefs?
Great game. Can't wait to see it again, hopefully. My laptop's on 10%, so I'm going to keep it real short now. I just got that warning where.
All right. I thought it was a good game. We were busy. It was dinner time, and I was trying to listen to it as I was driving around, and I did not get to hear the end of the game.
Missed kick by the Chiefs.
I did not get to see the end of the game, but it was a good game from what I heard.
It was competitive throughout, but
They
I also
turned the
felt like,
TV off
even though
on
it was
us.
competitive throughout, at no point did I fear that the Bengals were going to lose that game.
Ryan, quickly.
Great game. The Bengals managed to keep Travis Kelce in check. They did it enough to win the game.
Yes, they
I wouldn't
did.
bet that it happens again, but it could. It very well could.
The only good thing about your laptop being on 10%, these last two games were complete. Well, I guess
I only have
game
one
wasn't
thing to
bad.
say about this game, and it's the Colts were very, very obviously not at all prepared for Andrew Luck to retire. They were not ready for it in the slightest. That's going to haunt this franchise for a while. And Jim Irsay is starting to rival Jerry Jones in terms of bad ownership. I'm leaving Dan Snyder out of this because, he has his own issues, but in terms of like just poorly mismanaging your franchise from a talent perspective on the field, Jim Irsay is starting to get up there with the Jerry Joneses of, I'm very comfortable that the Colts will never win a Super Bowl as long as Jim Irsay is the owner, just the way that I feel about Jerry Jones. So
I just feel like the only real takeaway from this game was Cowboys scored 30 points in garbage time, which is Cowboy-ish to do. This time it just so happened to be on their defense. And that the worst thing that could have happened to the Colts was that Matt Ryan came back in that first game and won. And ever since then, it's been a train wreck because he is so beyond burnt out and done as a quarterback. It's not even funny anymore.
Oh, yeah, I want to laugh at the people that laughed at me when I told them Matt Ryan was in no way, shape, or form an upgrade over Carson Wentz. And it's very
Or
obvious.
Philip Rivers.
It's very obvious.
People told me that it was going to be better than Philip Rivers. I'm like,
well, I mean, Philip Rivers just straight up retired, but people tried to scapegoat Carson Wentz and say that it was his fault they didn't make the playoffs and that, Matt Ryan was going to lead them to the playoffs and all. Matt Ryan hasn't been good since 2018. Even in 2019, he had a top 5 Julio Jones and a top 5 Austin Hooper, and he still wasn't good. So I don't. Matt Ryan's washed, and this franchise was very poorly unprepared for Andrew Luck's retirement. What's going on, Gina?
Hi, Gina.
What's up,
Yeah,
kiddo?
this is a bad franchise with bad ownership. Chris Ballard, he hits on some pretty good draft picks, but he is a terrible GM, and Jim Irsay has his back. So, cool. One other team I don't ever have to worry about winning the Super Bowl. It's not Green Bay.
All right. In the last game, the Monday night game, I didn't even really.
I cannot believe the Saints just rolled over and let Brady pull Brady. That's my one thought about this game. It was 16-3 and then 16-10, and then just 3 seconds left in the game. You let him score a touchdown, and then you lose 17-6.
This game right here is the epitome of why Tom Brady gets to yell at all the players on the sideline. In all honesty, if I had to say it, 16-3, nothing's going right. He starts yelling at everybody. They score 2 touchdowns and win a game. He actually broke Peyton Manning's record for fourth quarter comebacks.
I mean, the guy's 45 years old. What hasn't he broken now?
Well,
is there anything that Peyton, Brett Favre, or Drew Brees have left over that Brady hasn't forced himself to break because he won't retire?
I think it's a miracle that Peyton Manning held the record for so many years despite being well retired. I thought Brady would have broke it years before that.
I mean, Drew Brees tried a couple of years ago, but his arm kept giving out after week 12 to the point where he's like, dude, I have to just retire now.
Do you guys ever wonder if Peyton would still be playing if he didn't have those neck surgeries?
I think he would.
I mean, I think he would have. I think he would
maybe
have
he
gone
would've
on
retired,
maybe
maybe a
2,
year
3
ago
more
or so.
years if he didn't have 4 of them, but he had 4 of them.
Yeah.
And I think what was more important to him than anything was going out the way he went out, which is winning his second ring.
He could probably go play for Indy.
You can see in those last couple of years, after he got embarrassed by the MetLife
Seattle.
Super Bowl, he was just so desperate to not be in that category with Drew Brees and Joe Flacco and Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer as this one ring quarterback. He was so desperate to move past Brett Favre and to actually have that second ring. I think that's exactly the way that he wanted to go out with that ring, and to people remember him as not this subpar quarterback in the playoffs.
I got into football because of Peyton Manning. So I love Peyton Manning. I'm a huge Peyton Manning is easily my favorite. He's like 1B to Brian Dawkins 1A in
Yeah.
terms of my favorite players of all time. So like I'm a big supporter of the fact that he should have won the NFL MVP award in 2012 when he didn't play a single snap, the year that Colts lost every single game. Because you can very obviously make the case that him just not being on the field was an 11-win difference. So no other single player in NFL history would make that kind of impact. We saw the year Tom Brady missed, Matt Castle went 11-5. So, but anyway, so back to what I was actually going to ask. Like, do you enjoy his commentary? Like, do you watch him like on the Monday night? Have you ever watched the Mannings do Monday Night Football?
Okay.
I think he's all right.
I need somebody to look at me. I need somebody to look at me.
I tried so hard the first year, but I hate Eli Manning with a fiery passion. I think he's one of the most overrated, obnoxious people to ever grace a TV screen. That I cannot watch the Manning cast at all. So if I have to hear the words David Tyree helmet catch one more time, I might just break everything within a 20-foot vicinity of me. I cannot stand him. I cannot stand him making dig after dig after dig after his brother, saying, well, I never got benched. And all this other nonsense that he does, and how he keeps saying, well, at least I'm the one who won over Tom Brady. And it's just all these little weird things that he does.
Which is funny because Eli Manning did get benched.
Eli Manning didn't get benched. He benched himself.
No,
he controversy.
He came out and got benched by his coach, and everybody was up in arms about it because it ruined his start streak.
No. Okay, so what
happened?
Yeah,
that's what it was.
So what happened was, my dad's a Giants fan. So what happened was, at that point, they knew Eli Manning was not long for the Giants. So they asked him, Eli, do you mind at halftime us switching over to Geno and seeing if we have something in Geno Smith? And he goes, if this is what you're going to do to me, then no, I'm going to sit myself. And then his father went to the press that week and said that they're breaking my son's Iron Man streak and all this other stuff. And then it all became about how dirty the Giants did to his son instead of Geno getting the opportunity to try to prove that he could come back after failing with the Jets so spectacularly. And it's just, I don't like Eli Manning. I'm glad that he was the first person to ever make Brady lose in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl. I'm glad that he has his 2 rings, but I cannot stand him at all.
Funny enough, I don't really hate Eli Manning like that. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. There's people out there that think he's a Hall of Famer, but that's I'm not one of those people. Well, that's
because, so for a lot of people, they always say that the story that, can you tell a story of football without mentioning this person's name? If you can't do it, then then they belong in the hall. And so for a lot of people, you can't tell the story of Tom Brady or the dynasty of the Patriots without having to mention Eli Manning beating their undefeated record and then beating them 4 years later again in the Super Bowl. So in that regard, I guess you have to put him in. But if he gets in that first ballot, that would be a disservice to every other player who had phenomenal years, but they weren't a quarterback who won 2 rings and beat Tom Brady.
If Eli Manning or Phillip Rivers are voted into the Hall of Fame at all, I don't care which ballot, it's a disgrace because Eli Manning, I'm going to break this down to you. I understand what you're saying, but that's Tom Brady's story. Here's Eli Manning's story. Oh, Peyton's brother. That's how everybody knows Eli Manning. Oh, Peyton's brother. Peyton's clearly the superior.
I don't.
Eli Manning,
I know he's his brother, but I know he beat Brady twice.
Eli Manning was never at any point
a
top quarterback in the NFL. He was never at any point a top quarterback in his conference. There's an argument that Eli Manning was never the best quarterback in his own division at any point in his career. You could make the argument McNabb and Romo were both better than Eli Manning as individual quarterbacks. Eli Manning caught lightning in a bottle twice and rode a great defensive performance that held the Patriots to 14 points in the Super Bowl. Made a
I
fantastic
don't
throw to
know if you
Plexico
can see
Burris.
this picture up here on my wall right here, but it's of Tiki Barber. And I hate to break this to the world, but if it wasn't for Tiki Barber, neither of those Super Bowl runs would have happened, because it was Tiki Barber who went out on a limb, stuck to his guns, called out Tom Coughlin, called out the hypocrisy of what was going on there. And when he left, he became the villain, and the rest of them all fell in line and magically got along long enough to win not one but 2 Super Bowls.
But Eli Manning was never the best at anything in any point in his career. He was never, like I said, never even the best in his own division. Can you say that about Brett Favre? No. Can you say that about Tom Brady? No. Can you say that about Peyton Manning? No. In all honesty, Peyton Manning got a little unlucky because the Colts had a dynasty going. They just happened to be 1B to a Patriots 1A. If they were in the NFC, they probably meet in the Super Bowl 5 or 6 times in the 2000s.
True. But the thing about Eli,
Eli's just
though,
not a Hall of Famer in
I
any
don't
way, shape,
think
or form.
he was ever even like a top 15 quarterback. He just so happened to be the greatest, supposedly, that there ever was, twice. And then when the Eagles did it with Nick Foles, I mean, no offense to you or to Eagles Nation, but that accomplishment kind of got knocked down a bit, because before that, nobody had beaten Tom Brady. No one's ever beaten him since.
Yeah.
So when Nick Foles and the Eagles do it, it's just like, is it really this big deal now? Like, it's been done. So, I mean, I don't know.
The Bears did it. Or the Packers did it. No, the Bears beat the Patriots, right?
No.
In '85, right?
Oh, well, we're talking about Brady.
Oh,
I know Brady's been around a while, Adam, but shit.
Mike Ditka's biggest regret, not giving the ball to Walter Payton to run it into the end zone there.
But yeah, no, Eli Manning's not off. And the same thing for Philip Rivers. He might have been the best quarterback in his division, but that's about it. He was Eli Manning of the AFC. Like, in all honesty, if you look at their numbers, like,
quarterback in their division. Think about who else was in that AFC East.
I mean,
West.
Trent Green was there early on, but he wasn't better than Rivers.
I
guess-
feel like
I'm not sure when
I
Patty
feel like-
Mahomes showed up.
if it wasn't for the other 04 quarterback, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. But because the other 04 quarterback is definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame, whether you like it or not,
Yep,
and
sure
all
will be.
his off the field issues, I feel like they kind of elevate the other two to try to meet him, especially that both of them have 2 rings each. It's just, at least at his time, there was no one who could handle the one in Pittsburgh the way that New York just seemed to escape by with him on 2 magic runs.
Yeah, and it was defense related for sure, with a couple of fantastic catches from Tyree, and Mario Manningham made a great one in the second
Please
Super
don't
Bowl.
mention Manningham.
Plexico Burris in the end zone, though. Nice catch in the end zone.
Yeah, Plexico Burris was a real shooter, man. Fucking dumbass.
Oh man. Well, guys, it has been fun. We ready to call this a night? We're at 2:48.
Yeah, my laptop's on screaming at me. Just sent me another message.
Right. Well, Melissa, Ryan, thank you for stopping by. One of these days I'll figure out how to manage this to get it under like 2 hours. It's been fun. Thank you again. Ryan, you're going on Logan's show tomorrow?
Yeah, I got Logan's show tomorrow, and then we got our predictions Friday.
You don't do the Thursday game on your predictions?
We do it like on the Tuesday recap. So we do predictions on Friday and then Tuesday recap.
And how people get a hold of you?
At BS Sync Sports, it's right down there. It's the Twitter handle. From there, you can get a link to our YouTube and our Spotify. New episode was just uploaded about 3 hours ago. So, yeah, if you want to give it a listen, go for it.
I will. I didn't get a chance to share it yet, but I'll look at it. Melissa, how people get a hold of you?
My screen name's right there, NJ49IZZY. You can find me on Twitter, find me on Instagram, and I'm usually in most Niner chats. So it's a pleasure,
All
Adam,
right.
and fun as always.
Yes, sir. Ryan, are you doing just strictly free agents tomorrow, or what are you guys doing?
I think so. I got to talk to him. I just know that we got a show tomorrow. I'll just show up. I mean, I sit at home, do schoolwork for 2 hours a day, and then know everything else about what's going on in the sports world after
Yeah,
that.
you're
So
one of the most knowledgeable people in the world. I love it. But I love it when you come on, just to let you know.
oh, thanks, man. I like being on here. I mean, or else I wouldn't be
Thanks.
on here.
I-
I'll keep it as 100 as I need to. You run a good ship, Adam.
But thanks guys for coming on. Everyone else, thank you for coming on. Remember, like and subscribe. And we are out.